I will call the roll. Mr. Gifford,
Here.
Ms. Jones, not here. Mr. Kibbe, here. Mr. Mangles,
Present.
Mr. McDonald,
Present.
Mr. Matthews, Mr. Pinto, Dr. Pinto,
Present.
and Mr. White.
Present.
And Lori Jones just appeared.
And Lori Jones has just joined us. So I think we're underway. Um, the first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. So we can rise and say the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of
the United States of America
and
and to the republic
for which
for which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible, with
liberty
liberty
and justice
and
for all.
justice for all. As you were. So, thank you. Tonight is our first item of business is a public hearing for our change in some of our harbor fees. I'm going to turn it right over to Jeff Mangles to tell us about that. Before I do we have any Amelia, do we have any speakers?
So what for the public hearing, what we can
Yeah.
do is open the public hearing, and then once the public hearing is open, that's when you can accept public comment, and the commission can discuss this entire time if discussion is warranted. And then once the public hearing is closed, then we'll no longer accept comments from the public specifically pertaining to this, and then we can have regular public comment for the subsequent agenda items for the meeting. So if
Do
you
we
want
have
to
any people waiting for that yet? Do you know? Do we have
Sure, and
people
this
waiting?
is just to comment on the public hearing for the proposed Norwalk Harbor fee schedule. So you can raise your hand and use the tool at the bottom of your screen to do so. We do have some attendees. I just don't know if they'll comment on this application or this item.
So I think we could turn it over to Jeff and open the hearing, and he'll give a couple of words about what we're doing, and then we'll see if anyone has a comment.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman Kibbe. So basically all we're doing here is we're essentially looking to move the already approved fees from the ordinance itself to a separate document. This makes it transparent and easy to
You're
just
cutting
make
out,
it.
Jeff. You're cutting out.
Heck, we're losing you, Jeff.
All right, how about now?
There you go.
All right, I see your internet connection is unstable. So I will speak a little louder. So my apologies if it's too loud. But basically what we're doing is we're essentially looking to move the already approved fees from the ordinance itself to a separate document, making it transparent and easy to read with fees listed in a table itself. And it also makes it easy to change fees if we need to, and we won't miss anything. They're not written out as in, $100. It's numerical now. That's all we're doing. We're moving it from the ordinance to a separate document. And in the ordinance, we say, see the harbor fee schedule.
There is no change in fee at this point, other than
the only fee change is to the transient moorings from $40 per night to $45 per night, and that is in line with our neighboring communities, which the average is about $50 per night.
Jeff, I don't think he sees your hand, Jeff.
Jeff,
Oh, there you go. Mhm.
So the next step after this would be to send the proposed change to the common council
Correct.
for an amendment of the ordinance
Correct.
and for approval of the one change in the transient fee.
Correct.
Thank you.
Amelia, do we have any hands up?
I don't see any hands raised right now. We did just have one other person join, so if you would like to contribute public comment to the adoption of the Norwalk Harbor fee schedule, please use the raise your hand function. I don't think we have any comments on this item.
Okay, do we close this now or?
Yep, so then once you close the public hearing, the public can no longer comment, no new information can be presented, and the commission may continue their discussion, or you can go ahead and vote to adopt the fee schedule.
Yeah,
Okay,
why don't we go ahead and adopt the fee schedule a little later? When we get down into our regular agenda, in case anybody pops in and along the way. Our next item is approval of the February
So I'm
28th.
sorry, Chairman Kibbe, so are we closing this now? I think that is standard practice.
Yes, that's correct.
And if we
Okay.
close the public hearing, then any newcomers wouldn't be able to comment once the public hearing's closed.
Do we need a vote on closing that? I'm sorry.
Not to open or close the public hearing, but just to adopt the fee schedule.
Okay,
Then, Alan, can I ask you a question, why you wanted to wait until later on to
I think if it's 6:07 now, and so if we don't have any comments, I think we might as well close the hearing.
that's what I was wondering, you certainly have the, chair's responsibility to do that.
Yeah, why don't we close the hearing? And should the commission vote on this? I guess we should. All in favor of the change in the fee schedule, raise your hand, please, commissioners.
Aye.
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 Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed? And there's none opposed. So the change in the way the fees are presented to the public is adopted, and the change in the transit mooring charge. All right. Moving right along, we'll go to approval of minutes from February 28th. Lori Jones.
Is there a motion to approve? Amelia just sent out the most current version, which has actually been up on the Harbor Commission website for a while.
Mm.
Is there a motion? Any questions? Motion to approve?
Well, I make a motion to approve the minutes
Oh,
as.
before you make your motion, I'm so sorry. We skipped public comment, so if anyone wanted to comment about the minutes, we might want to have
Okay.
public comment first, just in case. If that's all right.
Okay. Sure.
I do see a hand raised, so I will let Diane CC have permission to speak. All right, Diane, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Amelia. I wanted to, first of all, forgive my ignorance on these two topics, but I wanted to raise 2 points. And I'm hoping to stay on to hear the discussions on these. I'm also not clear if they're action items or just the preview. I wanted to speak to items, applications that are D and E, like D and David and E and Edward on the agenda for 289 East Avenue. I believe that parcel is the one that was the most recently approved for new construction on that little sliver piece of land there in between two houses. And this is to install a 40 square foot L-shaped timber pier. I wonder, again, I'm sorry that I'm ignorant on this, I shouldn't be, but is this a normal type of application and installation there at Mill Pond to have this type of a structure and this size of a structure into the pond? I'm a bit concerned about it from the impact, the environmental impact, what the use would be, the impact on the wildlife and that's there now. So again, I'm going to listen in on the conversation there, and I'm not sure if it's scheduled to vote or not. The other item I wanted that I'm interested in is item F. It says it's a standing action item on the work that's related to the walk bridge, and I'm still a little confused on this. I'm wondering if and when there is supposed to be a public hearing regarding the work in East Norwalk where the Eversource lines, as far as I know, are still slated to come across and underneath Veterans Memorial Park.
That's right.
And so
We're,
if you, yeah, if you can answer that now, that'd be great. And if not, I'll just shut up and wait till you get there.
Well, Alan, I was planning to
Okay.
bring that Eversource issue up under our last proposal for applications. So that'd be last.
that'll be fine.
I think we want to do is sort of recapitulate the Harbor Commission's previous responses that we did to DEP and the Siting Council for that. Because I think there's still an issue that I feel needs to be resolved. And then the other question, Diane, yes, that application for 239, is it 239 East Avenue will be addressed with regard to that structure in Mill Pond.
Do you want
Okay,
to-
so I'm sorry, Mr. Pinto, then did you say that then you'll be discussing a public hearing on the Eversource?
Well, yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, all right, so I'll stay on, and
We're not gonna
289 may or may not be a vote tonight then. It's,
There's no voting on with the Eversource power lines tonight either. We'll probably take some action on where we're going to go from here, but there, in terms of approving or disapproving, that's not for now. That's not
Right.
an item on the agenda.
We're going to propose a response to
Motion, John.
I'm sorry, yes.
okay,
Motion, yeah.
okay. I will thank you all. I appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Diane. Back to the approval of the minutes. Any
Okay, Dr. Pinto made a
Go ahead.
motion to approve.
Yes.
Is there a
Second.
second? Matt Gifford, any discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay,
you.
February 28th minutes are passed.
That's very good. Thank you, Lori. Moving on, the next thing we have on the agenda is a SHIP grant discussion, and this simply is that the mayor sent us information about the next round of SHIP grants, and I sent a note to all the commissioners just asking for ideas of things that would improve our harbor, which is that could be facilitated with a SHIP grant. So I don't know if any of you have thought about that. The other thing I'll add is that the DPW and recreational parks, I know are looking to use one of these SHIP grants for the construction or the reconstruction of the docks in the East Basin as well. But I did ask you to come forward if you had any other ideas where we could improve the harbor via a SHIP grant. So is there any ideas there? Anything anybody wants to bring forward for SHIP grants? Well, that's exciting. So I see Dan here. Are you here to speak about the
Yeah.
East Basin there?
Yes, I can thank you all for having me. Thank you to Chair Kibbe for inviting me to the meeting. I was going to share my screen if that works, just to show what we're proposing there. So as we know, the marina docks in the East Harbor are in need of repair. They've been there for a considerable length of time. Park and Rec sees them as a maintenance issue, a safety issue. We would like to upgrade that, and we would request your assistance with the application to the SHIP grant. Obviously, the city would facilitate, any information that's needed. We've invested money in the design plans, and this is one source of funding that would allow us to improve the harbor for harbor users there. So just let me hopefully share this well, and I can zoom in if anyone has any questions in particular. But just to explain, this is about a 754-foot long dock that we're proposing with 2 improved ADA compliant ramps down to the docks. Other features that are included is personal watercraft docks at the north end to the right. I'm not sure if you can see my cursor. So towards Harbor Lights or end of the dock. And then also there are handicap accessible docks, which are 20 or piers 20 by 5, followed by a majority being the 20 by 3s. And then several longer, because we've realized that boats have gotten longer, and to provide that at the south end towards the mooring field area there. This would also include restoration of the shoreline per our DEP permit, and our Army Corps permits are under their 30-day posting period. So we should receive those. You know, I know Jeff Stedman, I know Chris, were on some of the talks previously when we started this process, and what we looked at was ensuring that we maintain, you know, public access here, and all other, you know, compliance that we can find. Other improvements or, you know, continuations of service here includes the water and electrical services, obviously, to the docks at various points out there. So,
Anyone have any comment?
And Dan, this is Jeff Mangles.
hey, Jeff.
How are you? Finally, good to see you instead of just email. But what about landing area for the mooring customers?
Right. So that was a request that was part of the public comment that came in during the DEP revision. There will be signage placed at the south pier here that the people would be allowed to land there. The further concern was that that's currently and as permitted a 3-foot wide. So the concern is obviously with a larger boat or with loading and unloading, that should be wider. The group met, our chief of operations, Vanessa Valadares. She, you know, regrets that she can't be here tonight to explain that further. Race Coastal is our engineer that did the transient docks on the other side. You know, the advice that we have is to wait in the event that there are other changes, let's say during either bidding or as we start construction, to modify, you know, the permits. You know, and Jeff Stedman, correct me if I'm saying something wrong, right? But because of the nature of this dock, we're encroaching into the mooring fields there, and we're very limited in our permissions that of what we can do for that. And, you know, that oversight, you know, obviously appreciate people pointing that out to make sure this is as usable as possible for the public.
If I might just respond to what Dan has presented, I guess the task now is to prepare the application for the funds that are available through the Port Authority's SHIP grant program. And the Harbor Commission is being asked to do that, just as we did with the street end study and for the previous grant for the rebuilding of the visitors dock. So it's a we have all the information essentially. We have the opinion of probable cost, which is approaching $4 million. So we've talked about this with the Port Authority, and the understanding is that we would apply for the entire amount and demonstrate that there's the local cost share of 20% is available, but with the understanding that the amount that might be granted would likely be less than $4 million, because the Port Authority has the authority or authorization to issue $5 million or so of grants this year. But we've been directed or recommended by the Port Authority to apply for the full amount. And we also, I didn't hear at the beginning, Dan, you mentioned that you're close to getting the Corps of Engineers permits. So by July 1, when the application is due, we should have all of the permits in place. And then we'll put the grant together and the other thing, why the Harbor Commission is the desirable entity to provide the grant. The program is set up to essentially provide funds, most desirably to towns with harbor management plans and towns that can demonstrate that the the subject or the focus of the grant application is something that's consistent with the harbor management plan. So we have essentially all of the information and the background and have until July 1 to submit the application so that I guess the ask tonight is for the commission to approve a motion to submit a grant application for funds to reconstruct the Veterans Park Marina and to submit it for funding consideration to the Connecticut Port Authority's SHIP program. So I think that's what you're asking for, Dan, tonight.
Correct. That's what we're hoping for, with your support.
You know, I think from the Harbor Commission's point of view, this is the design is at this point it is unacceptable without a hard place for our mooring holders to come in and get water and things like that. You know, I've been very frustrated. I'm going to vent a little bit, but I've sent all kinds of notes to people about this for years, actually now, about the fact that we've eliminated our transient, our mooring holders spot to take on water, and that has been ignored and then Mr. Mangles has done the same, and we haven't been able to get it on the drawings. So I'm with my experience in the city of Norwalk, a little reluctant to trust that, oh, it's going to be fixed after the fact. And I don't know how to guarantee that we get what's necessary really to support the moorings that we rent. And that's really my question.
So, I mean, from that discussion you were in with Vanessa and our consultant, and I'm just going to share the screen again, with your permission. Appreciate that. And apologize for just needing to zoom in and reorient to where that was. So, sorry, I went to the next sheet. So the dock has, you know, a standard 8-foot width out to the end. We have the pipe piles in place at the end. The thought was obviously that the larger boats in the mooring field could load and unload at this point. The width of that finger would need to be permitted or modified of the permits that we have currently to improve the width of that. This does have the water and electrical, you know, shown on a different sheet, not to get into too much detail, but those services are provided as part of this plan.
So again, I've been disappointed with the city of Norwalk and a number of times we've asked for something and it's really a critical element, and I just want to be assured that because we have had a lot of questions from the mooring holders already about, well, where am I supposed to go to get my water? Where am I supposed to go to plug in? Where do I go to pick up my guests? And you know, that's just the little 3-foot finger's not really acceptable for that. So we need to have some assurance that if we're going to get behind this, both the grant to build it and the design of it, not having been involved in the process or had our comments listened to, that I'm just not feeling very happy about it. I guess it is the process that got us here, that without really paying any attention to the input from the Harbor Commission.
Yeah, Dan,
Would it
so
be-
are you saying that the southernmost float, that 3-foot finger, if you will, at the end, is that going to be expanded to at say 5-8 feet?
That would be the plan for what we do, that the advice of our professionals and our office, our chief of operations, was, you know, that we go back before those authorities having jurisdiction once, not multiple times, and not at this juncture, because it did take a considerable length of time to get to this point with permitting. I know, you know, I don't want to blame COVID, but it seemed, that's what the way Race was describing, permitting. There was significant turnover in Army Corps. That took a while. And, in order to receive this grant, one of the best advice we had is there's 3 boxes that you check one of saying you either are in the process of getting permits, have permits, or don't have permits. So, we're at the stage where, last year we had applied, but that put us in a lower category as far as award. This year, as Jeff said, because Army Corps is at the stage they're at, and we have the DEP permit in hand, that, we would be able to check a more favorable box on there. But going back to the drawing board, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jeff, but this program was authorized as 5 years. This is the 4th year of it, and the question would be if it was continued beyond, 5 years if we miss this opportunity.
Well, there's also the issue that we talked about is a few weeks ago, the legislature had a public hearing to discuss eliminating the Port Authority and folding it into the Airport Authority. So the future of the Port Authority beyond this year is not real clear. But we've been assured that that's not going to affect this round of SHIP grants. And then the other thing I just might mention, and sorry to talk so much, is that one of the permits needed from the Corps of Engineers is that Section 408 permit, Dan, that we talked about. And that has to do with any work that would affect a federal navigation project. And since this is approved to be within the navigation project, the Corps would give permission for this, but with the understanding that the footprint was not going to be expanded in any way. So I think to modify what's being presented now may raise some issues with the Corps and that 408 permit if you don't have it already.
Yeah, our discussion, just to add, for those that weren't there, the idea would be to extend the finger into the docking area, not because the coordinates are fixed, right? That's the limit of the footprint that we're allowed. And frankly, there's minor modifications, to that from the existing docks. But the idea being, we are encroaching into the area, as Jeff said.
Right, that was going to be my suggestion. That was my suggestion with the documents that I provided you before, is to make that that last finger 8 feet or so. Yeah, we may lose a slip, but you're going to gain stability, especially for those that need to pick up passengers and things like that. At the beginning you mentioned that the docks were really a hazard, right? They were unsafe, and 3 feet certainly is not safe. 5 or 8 feet would be, and for it to be northward, if you will, not southern, then that's not going to increase the footprint at all.
Jeff, explain that to me again. Now, that finger pier that's listed as B in this diagram right here. Now, that's from the point where it says point A to point B. What's the distance there?
Well, I'm not sure what the distance is. I think that it's an 8 foot, that main south dock is 8 feet wide. And I believe, unless anything has changed, that finger is 25 feet long. Can you confirm that, Dan?
That's 25 feet. That's correct. Those were
so that would be 33
longer watercraft.
Yes.
So the idea you'd have a boat tied up at the end of this dock. So that gives you 20
side.
On the south side, right? That'll give you what, 25, 26 feet of vessel length to tie up.
Total 33 feet.
33,
including the 8 feet.
All right.
So that's good.
But then you wanted the finger pier to be wider.
Just wider so that it's more stable. Walking, as we all know, walking on 3 feet.
And that would keep it within the footprint. That would keep it within the footprint of the dock. So you don't want to go beyond that dock. So if you increase that, what is it, 3 feet now? You increase that by 2 more feet or whatever. Have a let's say a 4 foot or 5 foot. That I don't think that'll take up much room as far as the slip adjacent to that in here. I don't know. I just can't.
Well, that would be 2 slips. Currently, there's 2 slips there.
There's 2 slips, yeah.
Yeah,
That
so
would eliminate one slip.
Eliminate one
The
slip.
alternative for this,
possible.
for the.
And the thing is, that's a
uh,
small that's a small price to pay for the convenience of our mooring holders. I mean,
Correct.
I think the mooring holders are usually what surely fit the bill as far as what's going on in the harbor here. Not much of the
Mhm.
revenue that is picked up by the harbor is done by our mooring holders, basically.
Correct.
So I
Correct.
think
We want
it's-
to, I'm sorry, John.
No, I was gonna say, I think it's up to the Harbor Commission to sort of, abide by, where our revenue source is, who's actually supporting the harbor,
Right.
Now, the other alternative here, and again, I don't have it scaled this off of how wide these double bays are. You can respacing the fingers could allow you to have the same number of slips just by taking 3 inches off of a few of all of them. Actually, if you narrowed them all by 3 inches, you'd pick up a whole boat width probably. But that's not my. That would be my suggestion if it were my project, but I understand not wanting to draw it again right now.
Right, and not necessarily, it's not redrawing it that's really the issue. It's the permitting that's the
Right.
concern, or the modification to the existing permit
Once it
for
gets
that.
permitted, then that's gonna
We
set
do
the stone.
appreciate.
Yeah,
that
in
people
my
are-
experience with permitting, which is a little bit limited, but I've done a bit of it in Norwalk, is that the regulatory folks really don't care about the spacing of your fingers as long as nothing's extending into the other rights of way. That the widths of slips is not something that any regulatory agencies really
It's
is
not
concerned
as
about as
critical
they are
of a
about the.
dimension.
As
Understood.
they
Dan
are.
mentioned, it was the overall footprint. We're not expanding that. So
Exactly.
if we do it this way, Lori, you
A
have
lot of solutions
your
to-
hand on? Hand
Yeah,
up?
I do. I have two questions for Dan. So Dan, is your feeling that even if we don't extend the footprint, but we widen that dock, that's going to be problematic for a permit?
I'm not saying it would be problematic. I'm saying it's part of it's a process that we would have to follow to assure that we are approved for that modification.
Okay, because I do think I agree with the other commissioners. That's super important. And my other question is, you said on another slide, it showed where the electrical and lighting was. Can we see that one?
Correct. Yeah, I can scroll through. Let me just make sure I don't lose you here.
I mean, water, electrical and water. Well,
Yeah,
hopefully lighting too.
absolutely. And again, I mean, this drawing shows, where there's fenders, there's cleats. Also, you can see the electrical water lines in the mid portion of the dock. And that spacing is, periodic throughout all the mooring, or individual docks for the entire length. So I'm just scrolling kind of from south to north. Yeah, again, you can see that those are situated centrally. Let me just zoom out a little bit and make sure I get to the other end. And again, this is where those ramps come down, individually to that. So there is, I don't want to off the top of my head say how many there are, but you can see, the locations that there's adequate access to that. And I think Alan and Jeff had mentioned, right, like for those mooring holders, that the water and electrical be extended to there. And again, to the point about the permitting, that's just a modification, to the drawing, and that location be extended to the end of the dock and out that finger. So it's more, again, centrally located for use by those boaters.
And one more question, Dan, what's the rationale for having the wider pier, the wider fingers on the north end? It looks like there are a couple of 5.
So the 5s are specifically for ADA compliance there. There's a quantity
Got
of 3. So overall,
Okay.
there's 31 fingers out there, and there's then the personal watercraft area that I'm kind of showing on the right of the screen at the moment. So those were the ADA accessible fingers at 5 feet were centrally located. Similar to what Jeff's saying, right? Like, you know, I hear what you're saying, that people are getting on boats that they're not necessarily docked at the fingers, based on the size of the watercraft and how they use it.
And we see that there's 20 feet spacing in between, so that's plenty wide enough.
It was-
So Dan, now, the drawing you showed there's the water electrical stanchions at the center for every pair of slips, but there isn't one at the far end. Is there going to be added one? Is that what you were saying?
That's what was asked for. I believe that adding one would be the most appropriate solution to that, so that if we are still using the fingers on the, I guess, upper left of the screen right now, that remains if there is a boat docked, you know, at that interior finger. Whereas, right, and I welcome the advice, like I'm hearing, it's a learning experience for me, for what we need, but the same, you know, somewhere located either at the end of the dock or more centrally, if people have a preference, of where they think that would work best.
Somewhere out there, either straight to the end right there is probably
Yep.
sufficient, I think, rather than turning the
Yeah, I would
corner.
say so.
Okay.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And
Turning
we
the
are
corner just
talking,
makes
you know,
there's more stuff in the way than
To trip
Right.
on. Yeah, and if 5 feet is ADA compliant, then you know, certainly that last finger could be 5 feet.
Okay.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
have any issues with that being 5 feet.
Yeah, I appreciate the comments and the collaboration on, you know, getting this to the next stage of where we are. Obviously, you know, acquiring funding and you guys supporting a grant would allow the city, you know, to move forward, and then, you know, we would manage that appropriately to get a wonderful product out there that highlights the harbor, just like you guys did on the other side.
And Dan, that's 25-foot spacing in between, correct?
Correct. These are the longer fingers to what Lori had asked, you know, for that. So typically the fingers are 3 different sizes as we propose, and we would be adding a 4th side to make sure that last finger is adequate width. But these were 25 by 3s with that 25-foot spacing for larger boats. And then there's, you know, 23 locations with of 20 by 3 fingers, and then there were the 3 ADAs that are 20 by 5.
And
So I believe that even at a 25 by 5 finger at the southernmost, you'd still have plenty of room for a larger boat. So,
Okay.
and you could station those boats by beam,
Yeah.
and that's.
And I've heard, I mean, just correct me if I'm wrong here. I mean, they do juggle some of the boats based on the sizes as people
Absolutely.
sign up during the season. You know, and people cooperate. I mean, obviously everyone likes their spot, but people understand, you know, safety of the water, you know, of the boats.
putting this on the outside of the finger.
Permanent.
We're not limited by the beam of the vessel coming in to tie up there, so it could be, you know, 15, 20 feet wide if it happened to be a little tubby boat. So that works for, you know, really very well. That outside location rather than in the basin, between the fingers. You don't want to be limited to the beam in there.
my boat's small, but it's not tubby, Alan. Thank you.
I thought it was
Yeah.
I
So
didn't
that would
suggest it
make
was
that would make the distance between the last finger and the finger going to north 23 feet if you put a 5-footer in there.
Yeah.
That's plenty
Yeah.
wide enough.
for-
You know, the marina I belong to, you have to use a shoehorn to get in between. So
I would just throw out there, just from experience doing this, is that if you add a few inches to, or reduce a few inches between all the fingers all the way down, you can pick up that space pretty quickly too. You know, it adds up very
Yeah,
well.
if
so
we're
you
only
can-
adding 2 feet, right, we need 24 inches. And we'll talk to Race about, how they recommend, approaching DEP and
Because
Army
it's
Corps
it's a
for that.
spacing a little bit could pick up, see if they wouldn't lose a finger or slip at all. There.
Yeah, I don't even think you're gonna lose a finger actually, or a slip. With a
Depends on the
23
beam of the
foot
boat.
wide. It depends on the boat, yeah.
Okay, well, we should, so Dan, you'd like us to make a motion to, that we support this project in this fashion? Is that appropriate?
Yes,
One-
please.
One more quick question. Is
Go
the
right ahead.
backside is gonna remain used for the dinghy?
Correct. Yeah. So this is continuous, Chris.
Yep.
And sorry, I stopped sharing. If it wasn't apparent to people, right? Like previously we had 2 separate docks at either end with, ramps coming down to it. Now the ramps are more central. So you can't just, kind of come into the middle the way you used to. You have to use the ends. So
Right,
there
yeah.
might be a
but-
little bit reduced capacity, but again, those fingers on that side as they exist now are in rough shape.
Right, you can only get under those ramps at low tide with a dinghy.
We'll have to adjust the motion. Yeah.
I
Alan,
think this is a great project. Just,
Yeah. Alan, we might have to adjust the motion just a little bit as far as what we're asking the commission to do. All right.
yeah, what is, you tell me.
But I think it's not just to support the project, but it's to prepare a grant application for the construction funds to undertake the project. I think that's what DPW is asking the commission to do. That
So
they're-
why don't we state it that we're authorizing funds to pay Jeff Stedman to prepare the grant? Because that's what it's gonna cost.
Yes, that's
not our-
right.
It's not our moral support.
But the grant application would be submitted by the Harbor Management Commission.
Sure, yeah, and I understand that,
Right.
that's part of it too, but
That has-
We're agreeing to pay for
as the
the.
treasurer, I feel obliged to state the economic impact.
That's correct.
And not that I have a problem with that. Jeff earns his money.
No, but should be clear on that. So want to make the motion?
Well, if we have assurances that would be addressed, that last finger.
That last finger situation, as long as we have a handshake, I guess, on that, we would fall in.
You have my handshake on that, and if Vanessa was here, she would concur.
That's all I need. Okay, I make a
That's all I need.
motion.
Make a motion, yeah, to support,
Thank you all.
make a motion to support the submission of the grant to Connecticut Port Authority for
I'll second that motion.
with the modifications that we discussed this afternoon.
Correct. Thank you, Dr. Pinto. I will second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion is passed.
Great.
Thank you
Thank
very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dan.
This is a very
all for
exciting
your
thing for the harbor
good
too, Dan.
questions.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be,
I'm excited to
fussy.
see that. Yeah,
It's gonna be terrific.
Yeah, I'll keep
Yeah.
you posted on as we move forward, and I look forward to working with Jeff and you all to bring this to fruition.
Excellent.
fantastic. Thank you,
Thanks.
Dan.
That's all set. Moving right along, then we can go on to application review. Dr. Pinto.
I'm muted. All right, if you don't mind, I'd like to make one item out of order because it shouldn't take
Sure.
that long. And that's for the, actually, Mr. Bajek is here. And he was supposed to sort of review the application that he submitted, not last month, the month before, dealing at with the Norwest Marine COP application at 130 Water Street. And he was supposed to get back to us with regard to the slight renovation that they had made in that placement of the bulkhead. And Jim, would you just like to, because we have an issue with that, because apparently the application has already been submitted and approved by the DEP.
That's right. They approved it, I believe it was March 1st.
Yes, and we really didn't have a chance to make fully our comments known, but that's an
No.
issue that we need to take up with the DEP.
Mhm.
But
You know,
anyway,
we can't control when they take
no,
final action.
I get you, and I think it's up to us to probably stay on top of that. I don't know why they don't automatically, in this day and age with computer technology, to as soon as that application is in the process of being approved, that they send a little letter to the municipality that it sponsors, that's supposed to be sponsored. So
It's
anyway,
probably just a matter of they're so busy.
yeah, well, everybody's
permits
busy,
and
you know,
things.
but I think it's an important point that we should be kept aware of what's going on, not just all of a sudden hear about it after the fact.
Absolutely.
But anyway. No, Jim, sorry, your floor.
Okay. Okay, can you see the plan?
Yeah.
Okay. Right here, this is, we've got the plan set into 3 different blocks
Right,
that, you know, kind of attached to each other. So this is the overall site, existing conditions. There's an existing seawall. There's a travel lift pit. There's also a concrete pad in this area for launching boats as well. And this is that northern section where there's a concrete launch pad. And this ramp here goes to the northern end of the marina, and there's this ramp over here, the southern end, not the southern end, but the middle part. This is the center section of the plan. And this is the south section of the plan with the travel lift area and storm drain. This is a cross-sectional view of what we're proposing. I know there were some comments the last time.
yeah, Chris McDonald had a comment with regard to the construction, type of construction material.
Right. It's going to be steel H piles at 10-foot intervals. This plan shows a concrete slab that going between the H piles. Our more recent discussions with the contractor that's going to be doing the work, it looks like the plan is going to change. Instead of concrete, it's going to be timber. So the timber would be 10-inch by 10-inch by 10-foot timbers. Typically, you know, you see them all over the harbor. It's a typical construction. They just slip between the H piles and, you know, until they reach the surface. Now, in discussing the construction timing and everything with the contractor, they claim they could install, everything can be installed from land. There's not going to be any barge or anything brought to the site. It's going to be entirely land-based. So they'll have a crane based on the land, and they'll start driving the H piles, and they can drive roughly around 10 H piles per day. It only takes about 20 minutes to vibrate them into place. And once the H piles are driven, they will install the timbers. So that will kind of seal the site so they can conduct the interior work without, again, affecting anything on the water. The only thing that they would do that would temporarily affect the water would be to remove the 2 access ramps to the marina, so they can, you know, install the timbers. There's also probably going to be another design change on the interior for the tiebacks. Instead of having a piling every so many feet, it looks like they're opting to go with just the concrete tieback, which will be about 6 feet down from the surface of the land. And then they will excavate for the tieback rods and the connection points and that sort of thing. I don't, should we open it up for any questions at this point? That's the basics of how this is going to happen.
Yeah. Does any of the commissioners have any questions regarding the proposal?
Comment on the COP.
Yeah, but yeah, we make it, but yeah, as Jim, often in these types of applications regarding sort of replacing the bulkhead, we've always been concerned, the commission has always been concerned about bulkhead creep. Here you're going out 18 inches beyond the previous location. And you've garnered that much space, an additional space on land, and you've now captured, some little bit of the waterfront. And the issues that we've oftentimes had was that the footprint that you have for placement of vessels on the outside of that bulkhead doesn't perhaps would extend that 18 inches further if it happens to be encroaching on a federal, on a sort of a harbor line or channel line, something of that nature. Those are basically the only concerns that we've had with dealing to wharfing out, so to speak, and an attachment of vessels on the side there.
For this project, there will be no shifting whatsoever of any of the docks. There's space between the docks and the existing bulkhead. I actually had a conversation today with the contractor. They're going to be installing the H-beams right up tight against the old wall. And, they don't even know if they would be out 18 inches from the existing wall. We're asking for that allowance just in case we need it, but their intent is to keep the new H-beams right up against the old wall and, minimize encroachment as best they can.
No, thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Yep.
Jeff. Oh, Jeff, yeah.
Just one comment about the whole process, because this is, thank you, Jim, for coming to the meeting tonight, but a lot of this is a moot point because the project has been approved by DEEP. And that gets back to our understanding of the certificate of permission process, which requires the applicant to provide the application to the Harbor Management Commission, but DEEP is under no obligation to wait until the Harbor Commission responds before it issues an approval. So I think the commission, we were probably remiss in not contacting DEEP after the last meeting to say we're going to meet with you again. So DEEP has approved it. And I wonder whether we should write to DEEP and ask for a discussion about this and about whether, if they're about to approve such an application as this, that they would ask if the Harbor Commission has any comments, if they haven't heard from the commission. But it's the Harbor Commission's responsibility to act on these applications as pretty much as soon as it can, because DEEP can approve it right away. Conceivably, theoretically, they could approve it the week after they get the application. So this process, we've had issues with it for many years. Maybe we might want to think about writing a letter to DEEP and see if there's a way that we can have better communication with DEEP during the COP review process by DEEP. And so that we know now, for example, DEEP could extend the comment period up, the review period up to 90 days if they so choose. And I think we would want to know that, because that would give us more of the time to review and comment.
But I don't think we want to jeopardize the timing of the project, though, Jim. That's the only thing. I don't think.
Well,
that was another thing.
I mean, it's a moot point as far as we're concerned, but that's probably what we need to do in the future.
Actually, I'd like to make a comment. In this situation, this bulkhead was starting to fail. And we did some repairs on it. And we did ask for DEEP to expedite their process if they possibly could, because
which they did.
We didn't want another failure to happen in between.
Right. No.
So, yeah, it's just the way it worked out.
Right.
But again, if I don't know that DEEP will agree to this, but whether it's an expedited process or a longer one, if Deep could just communicate with the Harbor Commission and say, we haven't heard from you and we're about to issue the permit. That's not meant to extend the process. It's just meant to understand what time we have to make a comment.
Well, I think that's going to be an agreement that the commission has with Deep, because they're not going to automatically
No,
approve that.
no, they probably won't because it's extra work. But
Yeah,
that,
any event.
it might be worth asking about it.
Yeah. In any event, well, and if the commissioners have any further questions for Mr. Bajek, if not, we could probably close this part of the application. Anyone? All right. Well, Jim, thank you very much for your attendance here and filling us in on the details a little bit more.
Always glad to attend.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jim.
Okay.
Thanks, Jim.
Yeah.
Okay. The next application is a CAM application, it's a referral from Carlo Vona, who is the applicant, and he plans to lift an existing single-family resident to be flood compliant and construct a second-story addition. He wants to raise the driveway, install new storm retention system, and upgrade the septic system. And as he points out that, I guess all of the stormwater components will involve you have three Coltech systems installed on the property, which are planned to be checked and periodically by the owner and kept certainly in full working order, which is certainly an issue that the Harbor Commission stands by, making sure that these septic systems are kept periodically checked. Mr. Vono.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if you want to, I have, let's see, wait a minute here. I have, oh, I don't have those plans here, but if as I understand, would you like to just sort of comment on your refurbishing? Actually, you're going to be doing a replacement or of the existing structure. You're going to be knocking that down, or you're just going to raise it?
No, sir. We're going to use the existing footprint. We're not going to be adding to the footprint. The footprint will stay the same. We're going to raise it, bring it above the most current flood compliant elevation. We're going to add a second story to the north end of the home. So we're not going to be adding over the full length of the home, just the north end. So essentially a little bit more than 1/3. I think it's around a little less than 900 square feet, or approximately. Because the way the property is situated by the marsh, a lot of the rainwater flows into the driveway, making the property essentially unusable during even semi-light rainstorms. So the intention is to lift the house, bring it into compliance, but also lift the driveway as well. What I think we did, I didn't hear you mention was that I also want to install, I want a pervious driveway. So I would be using pavers, concrete pavers that have extra wide gaps in the joints. And that will help relieve some of the hot street water that flows into my driveway and then into the marsh. We do have a Coltech system.
Is there one or three? I thought, did you should put three, or is there one going to be in place?
I said system. So there's various chambers there. I believe there are three. I don't have the drawing in front of me, but
I saw
Yes, I'm sorry, Wayne DeVanzo, Fairfield County Engineering. There are three Coltech chambers that are proposed as part of the system.
All right, great. Thank you very much. I thought I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you like, I could share my screen. Would that help?
Yeah, that would be helpful. Yeah, because I don't have.
That'd be great. Thank you.
And everybody see that?
Yep.
Okay.
We are able to expand. Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So can you run the cursor over the driveway, Wayne? I think.
Sure. Just give me 1 minute.
Yep.
So the driveway is down here.
Oh, I see.
This is the current driveway. I'm sorry, I can't move
It's okay, we could see it.
See,
yeah, it goes kind of off the edge, but the road is here, and this is the driveway. It comes up here and here to the house, and then sort of this way. And
And north of that, you can see where the 3 Coltex are.
the Caltex are over here, yeah.
Correct.
And they collect this part of the roof, correct, yeah.
And that'll satisfy the drainage from the roof and the also runoff from the drainage system at all in the house itself.
Yeah, this does meet the, we're actually adding very, very little impervious surface. It's literally like, I think 18 square feet. So there's really no increase in runoff even without the retention system, but we provided enough of a retention system for groundwater recharge, really. That was our concern, to improve the water quality and meet the groundwater recharge volume capacity. So that's the purpose of it.
Any of the commissioners have any comment?
The plan
Well,
shows an asphalt driveway, but I heard that it was pavers.
Correct. So we will be doing a paver, impervious paver driveway. So they're specifically designed to, they have extra wide gap in their, in between each paver. And and the way that it's installed on an extra tall bed of crushed aggregate.
Right.
So it almost serves as like,
So-
it's there to really catch the water.
So Wayne, when you point out that the fact it's an asphalt driveway, that means this is the current driveway right now.
That's correct. Yeah, that's denoting the current driveway. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
that's right. Yeah.
And I'd also point out, by doing the pervious pavers, that's going to actually reduce the runoff even further from what we calculated. We really assumed it as an asphalt driveway even proposed. So that's
Well,
actually an
certainly,
improvement.
certainly this is what the Harbor Commission is most interested in, is certainly runoff and affecting, any impact on Norwalk Harbor. And certainly you've made certainly many of the adjustments to reduce the stormwater runoff, and that makes it certainly consistent with our harbor management plan. So
I think the other part of it is too, it's improving the resilience of an existing structure to
Right.
flood
Oh, that's
hazard.
right.
So the consistency with the harbor management plan is based on the reduction in vulnerability to flood hazards, and our understanding that will result in a significant improvement to stormwater and water quality conditions.
and the fact that you have a maintenance program, which is also something that we look at, for maintaining these Coltech systems, is certainly very important to us as well. So with that, would any of the commissioners like to make a proposal?
Well,
I'll make a motion.
just I'm sorry, I have a question on the stone wall. Will
Oh,
any
yes, I'm
work be
sorry.
done on that stone wall?
No, I don't believe that we're doing any work.
Matt Pop, landscape architect, Environmental Land Solutions. The wall remains unchanged. It's probably like maybe a 18-inch grade change. So anything below that wall is the tidal wetland area. So I think that if there's any movement of that wall, you would need a permit from the state, because the wetland vegetation comes right up on there. There's a wide juniper band going almost the entire length of that wall. I think there's 2 gaps, and the junipers are probably like 8 feet wide. So when you're at that house, it's very tough to actually see the wall because they're covered by the junipers. So the wall stays.
Thank you, Matt.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Well, moving forward, anyone would like to make a motion? All right, Ms. Jones, I think you started.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that it's consistent with the harbor management plan.
All right,
I'll
with,
second that.
again, with the idea that we're improving the structural environment.
Correct.
Structure itself, making it resilient for, storms, and the reasons, well, basically the reasons that we discussed, and also the reduction of runoff and the capturing of stormwater by the Coltech system and the maintenance program that they have.
Correct.
Anyone second? Well,
I'll second that.
all right, thank you very much, Jeff. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any opposition? Great.
Thank
Well, Mr. Bono, good luck on your project, and thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pinto.
And we'll be sending you actually, was actually sending to the planning and zoning our recommendations.
Thank you again. Thanks, Commission.
Thank
You're
you
welcome.
all.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, we can stop sharing screen there? Yeah. All right, wait, let's see here. Yeah. Amelia, can I share my screen for a moment?
Yep, you should be able to.
Oh, okay. Let's see, that's here. Okay. All right, let me. Did everyone see that? I have the, oh wait, let's see. Here. What is this here? We're doing 49. Let's see, hope this is sharing. Let me stop sharing. Let me share again. Here it is. Okay. Okay, we're looking at 49. Neptune Avenue. See if I get this down here. There's 49 Neptune Avenue. It's a pre-application, and the agent is Mr. Schuler from Race Coastal Engineering, and the applicant was Gino Battino. Proposes to replace the existing, and this is the existing structure that you're seeing here. Plan to replace the existing deteriorated 6-foot wide by 64-foot long floating dock, and the 25 by 2.5 width and the 32-foot long gangway that's associated here. With a, they're gonna replace it with a 4-foot wide, 60-foot long timber pier elevated over the wetlands, and bring this down over here. We plan to replace this entire structure here with, oh, that's a closer look up of that here. This is going to be removed, and I guess this is going to be removed. And they plan to replace it with this design here, which is a, let's see, it's a 4-foot wide, 60-foot long timber pier elevated over the tidal wetlands, as you can see, and with a 3-foot by 32-foot long aluminum gangway. And at the end, it's an 8-foot wide by 12.5 long floating dock. The landward terminus of the gangway will be secured to the proposed pier, and the landward terminus of the pier will be connected to the existing seawall on the bottom end there. There's the 3 steps will be installed at the top of the seawall to access the elevated pier, and the total area of the proposed pier, gangway, and float will be about 456 square feet. They talk about the new floating dock will be supported by float stops at the periods of low water to prevent, the float resting on the bottom, keeping it 18 inches off the substrate. And all work involving the pier, gangway, and dock construction will be completed using barge-based equipment and workboats. And they also mentioned that the pier pilings will be installed by impact or vibratory pile driving hammers, or when necessary, drilled using a barge-mounted rig. And I think Mr. Schuler is here, perhaps, like to carry this project through a little bit more for us.
Yeah, thank you. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I think Dr. Pinto touched on all the major components of the project. There's an existing dock out there. It's resting on the bottom in periods of low water. It's deteriorated. And we're looking to replace that with a pier over the wetlands out to a smaller dock out in deeper water there. It's a pretty straightforward project, and I guess we'll just open up to questions if anyone has any questions or comments on this.
Do you have another diagram, Matt, that indicates the littoral property lines? From the
I mean, we can certainly draw that up, but we don't have that prepared for.
Yeah, I think yeah, we'd certainly appreciate you doing that as far as the application, having that on the application, because we often talk about the extension of the dock close to the littoral property lines of being certainly a reasonable, was it 25 feet? At least
Well, that's the guideline.
that's the guidelines, at least 25 feet from the littoral property line. So it'd be helpful to know where that exists, because there is you mentioned you have certain angles there, and we know that every section of the landward side that those littoral rights can change depending upon the angle of the, well, I'm not exactly saying that right, sometimes it could go off on an angle going to the right. Sometimes it actually goes inward. Depends on the, I guess, the surveying, the method
surveying method.
of how they assess those littoral rights. So if you can put that on that map, that would be very helpful to us.
All right, noted. Thank you.
We also want to hear comments from the Shellfish Commission.
Yeah, well, that was the other thing too. This, we usually send this application to our Shellfish Commission because we're certainly concerned about the disruption of the substrate. And you had mentioned that the dock would be lifted up on floats that would prevent, the dock from resting on the substrate, and certainly we're very sensitive to that. So we will certainly send this to the Shellfish Commission, or you can send that as well.
They require to, John.
Yeah,
It's pre-submittal.
for a pre-submission
Shellfish
application,
has
yeah.
it now.
Oh, they do have it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. So I think Mr. Bardish is here, but yeah, he's chair of the Shellfish Commission, so they do have it. Yeah.
The applicant is required
Yep.
to send it to both the Harbor
Okay.
Commission and the Shellfish Commission.
Okay, great.
If I could add, the Shellfish Commission had reviewed this earlier this month.
Oh, they did.
Yes, they had asked to arrange a site meeting. I was wondering if the Harbor Management Commission had actually heard anything. It seems like you guys haven't gotten any comment from the Shellfish Commission.
No, I didn't hear anything from Mr. Bardish.
Yeah, other
Okay.
than that was in the public meeting. I mean, we did request the organization of a site visit for sure, as we always do.
But this is a pre-submission application, so the approach of the Harbor Commission is,
You'd move
unless
forward.
there's an objection, to have no objection to it moving forward to a permit application, provided that the submitted drawings include an extension of the littoral property lines and the distance from the proposed structure to those property lines. And then the commission reserves its right to continue to review it during the regulatory process. But it's not a question of consistent or not consistent with the plan now. It's having no objection.
No
to it
objection to the
moving-
project moving forward.
To the application.
So if any of the commissioners would like to make a motion in that regard? All right, well, all right, I'd like to make a motion to propose that the application at 49 Neptune Avenue, it's a pre-application. We have no objection for the application moving forward, providing that the applicant supplies the commission or has on the application mentioning the littoral property rights, and that we reserve our right to review that application following its submission to the DEP.
John, I'll second that for you too. Sorry, I couldn't get off mute.
Oh, thank you, Matt. All right. Well, all those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? Any noes? Okay. All right, Mr. Schuler, thank you very much, and we'll get that information out to you very shortly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let me just here. Those occurred. If I can get the next one up here. Oops. I think this is it here. Yeah. Is this it? Yeah. Right. This is a application for 239 East Avenue in East Norwalk. It's a 440 dock application. The agent is Zachary Visser from Race Associates. I'm not sure if Mr. Visser is here.
Zach is not here.
Are you,
this evening.
Matthew, will you be handling that?
Yeah, I'll step in on his behalf.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. All right, the applicant, who is Scott Herman, proposes to install a 40 square foot L-shaped timber pier, and that's shown here. Let me see if I can get this. Could you see the diagram? All right, good. A 40-foot timber pier here. I'm sorry, 40. What did I say? Here, let me get back. 40 square foot L-shaped timber pier along the property seawall. The property seawall here, and the pier will extend 6 feet out from the wall, and before extending parallel to the wall for an additional 8 feet. That's shown over here. And a gangway measuring 3 foot wide by 16 foot in length will be attached to the pier and extend to a floating dock, which is over in this, let's see if I can get my cursor here, in this region right here, to a floating dock measuring 6 foot wide by 12 foot in length. The support system for the pier will be either timber or helical pilings, depending on the site accessibility and the convenience for installation. It's going to be a very tight area to get any type of heavy equipment or anything in that area, certainly. And the dock will be secured with float stops with framing to maintain a minimum of 18 inches distance from the substrate. And the anchorage will be provided by either piles or by an aluminum strut, so that this dotted line right over here represents the aluminum struts that will anchor the docking area to this L-shaped pier. They're going to have a concrete beam seat will be constructed on the seawall to provide support for the landward section of the pier, and the pile installation will involve using, excuse me, a long-reaching excavator or power tools, since there's not going to be anything dealing or getting anything from the waterward side, and certainly depending upon the site's accessibility and any of the restrictions. And the dock and the gangway will be, excuse me, will be prefabricated off-site and transported to the pier once it's completed. I think that is all mentioned in the application, and I was wondering, Mr. Chula, if you had anything to add or comment, and I know the commissioners would have some comments regarding that application as well.
Not really. Again, I think you touched on all the major components of the project. Like you said, access to the site's gonna be tough. Culvert on the east side of the site prevents barge access, so everything will have to be accomplished by either land-based machinery or laborers getting down and screwing in helical piles by hand. So
for the commissioners, this property is located just across the street from the Pastime Club on East Avenue, at the end of East Avenue. And it's located right in the center of actually toward the end, toward the mill pond, where the culvert goes out and extends out into the East Basin. So that's areas all close nearby to that. So.
Could we ask how it would be used?
Yeah, that was the other question. Well, that was one question I had. Just how will this dock be used? You know, you don't have access to open water. You just have a pond. And so this is kind of new, because I don't think there's another structure like this in that pond.
There are no structures.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
In that pond.
Right. And so this would be the first of its kind. I don't know if there's any major obstruction, because as far as the substrate is concerned, although I'd like to see things kept off the bottom, there's no shellfish resources that I know is in there. But I think it's important that this area be kept flowing. And I think that was one design that they had when they reconvened, actually, when they redesigned the flow of Mill Pond, where they kept this estuary where they built, I guess, these berms on either side of the pond itself to allow the flow of water to zigzag through there to keep it flushing and keep it flushing, basically. And I know that area is also going to be frozen over, because that pond does freeze over enough to carry out some ice skating on. So I was wondering what, those docks are going to remain in place, during the winter months type thing, because that thing is going to freeze up as opposed to your saltwater area, because that's mostly brackish, so fresh water that's in there. Anyway, I'm sorry.
Right. As far as I know, the applicant is proposing just for kayak and canoe access on the pond. I'm not sure about his willingness to make the dock seasonal and remove it during the winter months to prevent any damage or.
That's certainly up to him, because we've had issues of that type before with other docks and areas that and plus dock removal has also been made in areas where the shellfish boats need to get in and do their thing in the area there, and certainly docks and certainly vessels attached to various areas need to be cleaned, cleared out of that area. But in this case here, it's not affected by that, basically. Any commissioners have any questions about that?
John, I had a couple questions about the adjoining property, right? Are those lines on any of these drawings? I don't see them.
As far as the littoral property rights here?
Yeah.
They're not on here.
Extended lines that would need.
You're right, Matt. Those are not extended here as well. We don't know. We don't, let me see here. We don't know where the littoral property rights, and I don't know how that works on a pond. It's the same way that it works on the harbor side.
It's titled, John,
The title, oh, title, okay,
so it's the littoral property line.
all right. Oh, okay, right.
So there's an approach to doing it.
Yeah.
Is this the new property that's towards the end there, or is it? one
Yeah,
of the
it's right. If you go down, it's right across the street from the Neptune from the Pastime Boat Club, from the Pastime.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it right now, on a
Yeah.
overhead view.
I mean,
Yeah.
I could.
Yeah, it's the last house on
could
your left.
I mean, the dock is going to extend. I think it's going to extend up to 6 feet from the property line outward. I don't know how much obstruction that's going to be, 'cause it's fairly wide in that area right there. I don't know whether it's going to upset the flow of, the tidal flow of water in that area, that make any difference. So I don't know. So as far as I'm concerned, I said, from the commission standpoint, I don't see certainly a problem with that. But this does set a very interesting precedent, because there's no structure like that in the mill pond. And I don't know if we have anything in the harbor management plan to
No.
address something like that. We never had come across that issue before.
Oh, well, there's a berm just a little west of that, across southwest of that, and then there's another berm that's west of the adjacent property. So we're talking about the second property in, if you're coming the wrong way.
That's right on East Avenue.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how much of an obstruction that would be for tidal flow. Because there's at least water that will flow underneath that, and underneath that entire structure. So it's not. I don't know what else to say about that, but other than, as I said, a few of the things that the commission is certainly concerned about would be maybe, again, learning about a little bit more of the littoral rights of what the neighbors are going to be like, because if this sets a precedent for building of these small kayak docks, in that area. That's,
I have a couple questions.
anyway, yeah.
I also have a question about the separation. I know that we have recommendation of 25 feet. Do we have at least 25 feet from the property lines, but we don't know where the property
We don't
lines
know the
are
property line. We don't know where the littoral property lines are in this. No.
The 25 feet is a reference to the Corps of Engineers guideline,
Yeah.
Jeff. And so
Okay.
the policy is that a setback of 25 feet is the policy, unless there are compelling reasons otherwise, such as existing structures that go back many years, or narrow properties. But the guideline is 25 feet. And might I ask the applicant, have you discussed this with anyone from DEEP yet, to see if they raised any issues having to do with the construction in an enclosed tidal pond like this?
Race hasn't had any conversations with Deep that I'm aware of regarding this specific structure.
Be interested in,
And then the repair of the wall.
Yeah, well, that's going to come up next.
Oh, I got-
That
I have another-
the wall is a separate issue right now. We have that's going to be the next application. That's a COP application.
So this is a 440 dock application, which is basically you're registering it as for a general permit. So if it
That's
meets
correct.
the requirements of the general permit, it's automatically approved unless
Mm.
somebody raises some environmental or navigation related issues that DEEP would consider. Yeah, here's a question that oops, I think I know the answer to it, but this is a tidal pond,
Mm.
but the applicant's property ownership goes as it would be on the main the harbor to mean high water. There's been no discussion about any private ownership of underwater lands in the pond that you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
I thought I knew I think you're right. We haven't come up with that before.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I'd be certainly interested in what the DEP's comment would be as far as
This is another example that they could approve this tomorrow. there's no requirement for them to wait for a comment from the Harbor Commission.
Right.
I'm just wondering, since it's a new activity or a new type of structure in a relatively small tidal cove, if there are any issues having to do with environmental quality that we haven't
thought about, yeah. You know, and I think,
I do know that blue crab travel in and out of there as well.
yes, yes. Well, blue crab will also cling to those pilings. As a matter of fact, that's certainly a private home and a security for them. You know, even under the dock. But yeah, I would like to, you know, sort of defer this to, you know, I know it's a COP.
It's not a COP.
Oh, that's not a COP. It's
440.
a 440 application. To you know, discuss with DEP as far as any environmental issues that might be raised that we haven't thought of. I personally can't think of any right now.
It just doesn't seem that there's any real apparent environmental or.
I mean, this is a
navigation
unique little
issues.
you know, inward pond that the city took certainly a lot of concern in making sure that it remediated the mercury problem that they had there over the years. That was certainly an issue from the hat factory there, and so that was the one reason for the putting in that extensive flushing system of washing that, you know, in that tidal area there, and so I don't know how this construct would have you would interfere with that, because I don't think it would actually interflow with the overall flow of water in and out of the pond, because it's not sitting on the bottom, it's not blocking any particular structure. So I certainly would love to get information from the DEP with regard to the confines, you know, the area of the dock in an area of this type here, if there's any, I said, environmental concerns that we're overlooking, so to speak. And I don't.
Yeah, what do we do though, John?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think maybe you can call. I can, you know, talk to them tomorrow.
We can talk with them tomorrow, but that.
Yeah.
Absent, you know, any issues that might bring about.
Yeah, absence of those issues, you know, I would have to say that it would be consistent, certainly with the harbor management plan.
Or you say no objection.
No objection, yeah, to the project moving forward. And tossing it up to the DEP to make certainly the final decision in the area that we're dealing with.
But also with the condition that the extended littoral property lines.
Right, we need to include the littoral property lines in this diagram here, for the sake of knowing the proximity to to any potential neighbor that might want to do anything else in that area there. But
yeah, there's a berm to the east, to the west, and almost directly across. It sort of splits the property line. So
yeah, so that for those reasons, Jeff, I'm not an engineer, you know, sort of an aquatic engineer to know whether that's going to impede or have that much of an effect over on the flow, the tidal flow. I don't know, but I certainly would confer to more more minds that it's an intellect than I have on the water, you know, the flow of water in that area. So I mean, I said I shouldn't have any problem with the project moving forward, and you know, again, with the idea that you would indicate the littoral property lines on that diagram, and that we would reserve the right for, you know, further discussion on that project in its final form.
If there's it's in the final form.
It's in its final form now. That's true.
If there's anything else that comes up.
If anything comes up, yeah. I know that's sort of a convoluted motion, but yeah, would anyone like to try to put that in words as well as?
Yeah, I think, John, what you were initially saying before the possible conservation issues were brought up is that, you know, as it stands for the Harbor Commission, you know, standards, we don't have any issues or concerns with this. We would like to, you know, see the littoral properties be brought out, and we'd like to, you know, just to have some, you know, possible say of what any conservation concerns might be. But other than that, I mean, on the basis
conservation, environmental, certainly environmental concerns in that area because of the confines and what that pond originally was involved with, and what we want to keep out in the future.
Exactly, and you know, with the exception of those two issues, it seems to meet or be in line with the standards that we're looking to have placed. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only motion that I'd like to put forward and have that move on.
All right. All right.
And
Anyone-
again, as you noted, with the right to, further comment if there's any conservation issue that's brought up, because, we're not too inclined to deal with, low flow water conditions such as, the mill pond and the associated conservation, concerns.
Right, right. Would anyone like to second that?
I'll second.
Who's that? Chris?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chris. All right. All right, well, all those in, excuse me, all those in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Any mentions? Any no's?
I'm a no.
You're a no. All right, Jeff, thank you very much.
Mhm.
All right, we have a motion to pass on this, so we'll move forward with those statements, but I certainly would like to get, just for my own edification, and more information from DEP with regard to structures of this kind in these confined areas such as that. So anyway, all right. Well, Matthew, thank you very much.
There's one more part of this.
About the
Yeah, we're gonna do.
rate
We're gonna.
wall.
Yeah, we're doing that now. The next application. That's actually that's the COP, Alan. Let me see if I can get this up. Okay. I hope you can see this. Can you see the next diagram here?
We can.
See on my screen? Oh, good. All right. Well, the next, it's the same address at 239 East Avenue in East Norwalk. It's a COP. And again, it's Race Associates that's the agent for this project. And Mr. Herman, who is the applicant, intends to repair an existing dry stacked stone wall, elevating it to approximately 6 foot, 6.5 feet. The wall involves just chinking the wall and adjusting the existing capstones as needed to accommodate the additional layer of stone necessary to raise the wall. And the upper segment of the wall will be cemented in position. And the proposed elevation of the seawall will be aligned with the neighboring wall to the west and be roughly 3 feet lower than the adjacent wall patio to the east. Additionally, the applicant proposes the addition of a 3 foot wide timber walkway on the top of the wall. And the project includes the installation of scuppers and drainage trench along the rear side of the wall. And the drainage trench will incorporate the geotactile fabric positioning against the wall and topped with a layer of gravel to aid drainage and mitigate, the hydrostatic pressure and what flows into mill pond, which we're certainly very concerned about. And this will mitigate the potential erosion resulting from the dry stacked nature of the wall, as well as the elevated position of the neighboring walls and upgrade the upland grade in the comparison to the applicant's existing wall and grade. And they talked about the 12-inch diameter timber walkway will be constructed on top of the seawall with a section for the extension of the decking on the seawall. And the construction will include shipment of materials, which will be done mainly on land since they're going to have any water access to that property. So again, Matt, if you had any additional comments to make, what they plan to do again is rebuild. This is the wall structure here that you see here obviously without the confines of that dock, that L-shaped, the L-shaped pier in the dock that exists over here. This is the construction of the wall. And yeah, so, and you can see here what they plan to do is to put this wooden walkway on top of that construct. And I can show you some, again, and this is again part of the side view of what they plan to do as far as reconstruction, as far as the scupper that they plan to put through the wall, and as well as the protection of gravel and geodetic cloth behind that wall area. And you can see, let's see if we have some actual pictures. Let's see here, yeah. Yeah, this is actual photographs of the wall, the basement of the wall they plan to sort of refurbish. So certainly is in the dire need of repair. There's no question about that, in which the commission does support, timely improvement of the structure, supporting the landward into the, well, in this case here, into the pond. You can see here,
Yeah, it's a question, sure.
yeah. And same with along here. Because that's looking down from the driveway area down to where the dock would be, along with the the wall. Would here. Yeah, so here you can see the distance too from the other side of the pond here to where their proposed dock would be placed in this region here.
Is the repairs gonna look for the wall? Was that John? Was that concrete or was that also stone?
No, that's all stone. Well, no, on the neighbor's side, it looked like this was concrete over here.
Yeah.
Over here. This is a neighbor's side over here. What they plan to do is to abut in this region here, but on the front here, you can see right over here, that's the neighbor's wall. From there, this is the stone. This is what they plan to elevate, and then put that timber cap on top of that over here.
So more stone and then wood.
Yes, that's as I understand. I think Mr. Schuler, is that correct?
The addition of the stone on top will be mortared into place.
Oh, right. Okay.
Hence the scuppers and the drainage.
Ah, okay, I got you. Yeah,
Can I ask some questions? Sure.
yeah. Yeah,
Just a couple of questions. Is the existing wall permitted?
I believe it's grandfathered in. I believe Dr. Pinto scrolled past the photographic documentation.
Oh,
And where would you do the work from?
landward side.
It would all be on the landward side, and then how would you propose to protect the environment of the pond during the work? Would you have silk curtains, or how would you do that?
Right, we'd be using turbidity curtains or silt fences as needed to control any sedimentation.
Right. And then the other question is, since this is a flood and erosion control structure, do you need a coastal site plan review and approval from planning and zoning?
I believe we will, once we get the state permit back to us, I believe we will need to come back for coastal management review.
You can see there's very little room of, construction area right here, given the house and the
It seems
distance
there's
here.
very little.
Yeah,
room for
it's
work.
very, very tight here, yeah. And well, they mentioned that everything is gonna be done by manpower. Right, and wheelbarrow and backbreaking, yeah.
That's right. We're not gonna be able to get any. We're not anticipating being able to get any machinery back there. So that's
No,
why-
I didn't think so. I thought that was certainly because I see here's your entranceway here. I don't know what this is here. What is this?
I guess I'd have to refer back to the whoever made designed the house. I think that's probably drainage of some sort. I'm not quite sure.
No, there's no septic system in this area. There's city sewage right here, I would imagine. Is that correct? Yes.
I honestly I don't know. I'm sorry.
Okay, no. Yeah.
That's got to be on city sewer. They're right
Yeah,
up and down.
I'm sure, yeah. But you can see there's very little room to maneuver back here, but any event. So,
The main thing is that the best management practices be
Right.
employed to protect the environment. of
protect the environment
the
around it, yeah,
pond.
yeah.
Yeah, like keeping that silt fence intact that you see there.
Uh,
Right,
which one? I'm sorry, Jeff.
right there, that picture right there.
Oh, right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, to Jeff's point, I mean that because of the constant flow in that area, and there's not a lot of, it's not a deep area to be able to handle, sediment, things like that. So, that those silt fences would be really critical if not having a boom.
Well, they
during that time.
did mention that in their application that especially also when they were doing drilling for the piers for the previous application that they put on, that they would put up silt curtains if there was any turbidity excessive turbidity that they found during the drilling or the hammering in the piers and pilings.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of bait fish and blue crabs and.
Yes, in that area, yeah. So that's why I'm certainly more concerned about the environmental concern. But here, this certainly we support, certainly the timely reconstruction, certainly of bolstering up any landward side, preventing anything going into the harbor, or in this case here, going to the pond. you know,
The plan supports the timely repair and maintenance of shore protection.
shore protection
structures.
structures, right?
So in that regard, it would be consistent with the plan, but provided that appropriate best management practices
Right.
can be employed. And then I think the commission would also reserve the right to, if anything else comes up or any additional information, to make that known during the coastal site plan approval process.
Right.
Because the work can't be done until they get the coastal site plan approval as well. See how they get that done.
Well, they're gonna be doing a lot of backbreaking work in that area there, that's for sure.
Yeah, Matthew, is any work going to be done to the existing?
Yeah.
Any repairs done to the existing, removing of the rocks or bringing any other rock in to repair that?
Yeah, that's the idea. There'll be chinking done as needed to stabilize that wall before the extension of the height is added on top of it with the stone and mortar. So certainly there's going to be some work done to that wall. We're not anticipating it to be extensive. We definitely don't plan on rebuilding that entire dry stack wall. So
I was gonna say,
hopefully-
there's some quite good size boulders that they have there. I don't know how, you know, without having any heavy equipment or special machinery back there, that you'd be able to manage that, you know? Any event. All right, well, would like to make a motion to move forward with this application. Jeff or Chris? Anybody?
Find it consistent with the plan. with
Yeah,
best
well,
management
basically,
practices
yeah,
and reserve
basically we
the-
find it consistent with the harbor management plan because the plan does support, you know, timely repair and assuring that, you know, that any landward structure does not impair, offset or interfere with the harbor, the water, and that the best management practices would be taken when the under the construction area, when they start removing the stone or putting the stone in, and that we reserve our right to review that application when it comes to, when they have to get, let's say, have to undergo their site plan review. As a matter of fact, a coastal site plan review, that we'll be able to review that and add further comment if necessary. Anyone like to second that motion?
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
All right, thank you, Jeff. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions? No. And any nays? No. Okay, thank you very much. All right, well, Matt, thank you very much for standing in for Race Associates and carrying out and bearing with us for I think it was three applications, three applications this evening. But thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
All right, and let me close off my stop share here. And what I'd like to do under the very last item that we have on our application review is that we have a standing action items, and one of the action items deals with the walk bridge proposals and anything that is transmission cables and anything that goes on, for example, with Eversource, the DOT's plans on stationing the work barges, et cetera. So under that, I'd like to sort of reinforce our need to respond to the public notice, the Eversource public notice. And what I'd certainly like to propose, or certainly propose to the commission, is that we base our letter that would like to propose based on the previously submitted brief that the Harbor Commission sent to the DEP and the Siting Council. So we did make comment to the DEP during the initial review process, and we did make comment also to the Siting Council. And if I can certainly make a very brief, I sort of outlined some of the points that we had made. Basically, that point number one.
It's
Yeah.
not clear what you're talking about. You're talking about the Eversource wires, transmission
Yes,
lines,
the
or
transmission lines that are going underneath our dock. Because I said, this has been a very long process that we've been going through. The city supposedly should have made comment about this. They did not. I think the ball was dropped somewhere along the line. I think Eversource should be held responsible for any additional work that would be required if we had to replace or refurbish or redesign that dock in the future. That is having these two high tension wires underneath our dock is going to set into motion an added expense. Now, they don't think that's going to be an added expense, but if we call in a company and says, hey, look, we want to redo this dock and we want to do it in this fashion, they're going to turn around and say, you've got 2 high tension wires. We're going to need special equipment. We're going to need special attention, and that's going to drive up the cost of doing business, as opposed to some other person that would be able to do this project without this hindrance, without this encumbrance. And this is the problem I'm having with these 2 high tension wires. Even though they're going 50 feet below the harbor, they're still in the location of our visitors dock.
John, may I?
And as far as I'm concerned, for the commission's sake, this is the first, actually, no one has ever seen a public facility having 2 high tension wires underneath a public facility. And that's in this country here. And Eversource even made that, they admitted to that this is the first time it's ever happened. We're going to have, as we pointed out, probably an 8-foot sign, right on our dock. We're going to have people walking, children walking, and seeing a sign saying, you've got 215 kilovolt, tension wires underneath your feet. I'm sorry, I just can't.
It'll say danger, John, a big
Danger,
giant letters.
yes, yeah.
Danger.
I mean,
all people get back in your house. Look, this document we have here, I have from Deep.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just talk a little bit what we have here. We have a document that is intends to waive a public hearing on this. We have until April 11th to, I believe it is April 11th to react to this.
April 15th.
And I think we ought to mobilize ourselves to request a public hearing, first of all.
Yes.
So it isn't just us as a harbor commission. I think any one of us can write a letter and say we disagree with all this. I've been told in the past that one letter from the harbor commission has the weight of one letter.
Yes,
if you get 40 citizens writing a letter, you have 40 letters, and it's more bulk. So I think that we should our first step ought to be getting petitions for a public hearing. I know Matt's done some work on that. I might let Matt talk about that, but Matt's prepared a document, the petition document. I think Deep helped him do that, perhaps, but I think the most important thing we have to do is really to get a public hearing and get the public stirred up about this. Letters fine, but I don't think people really read, even Deep reads those long letters. And I think that I'd much rather have a room full of people from East Norwalk squawking about this. And
I think the East Norwalk Neighborhood Association plans to submit something. I hope that they do, because they did talk about that in one of their meetings that they had.
Yes. So I think that we can write separate letters, but I think that our objective as the commission should be to turn out people to petition for a public hearing.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah,
rather than,
in my opinion, Alan,
a letter.
City dropped the ball on this. I'm sorry, because I was at
I agree with you. I don't disagree with you.
Meeting with the Common Council, but they did express an interest, and I think it was Doug Hempstead himself indicated the same proposal that we mentioned, this proposal of making sure that the city's best interest was protected, and I think that agreement that was made, that we saw, that public notice that was received, was written by Eversource and not written by the people who are DPW engineers, because I don't think any engineer in their right mind would allow that to occur.
Could I just make
Let me speak a little more to that. And so in last after at the last Shellfish Commission meeting, the DOT presented their proposal for underwatering there, because they have high voltage cables as well that run the trains. What we're talking about for under the river here.
That's right, but it's not under a public facility.
This document is about going just under the river. It doesn't talk about any more than just under the river. The whole rest of it down Elizabeth Street and under Vets Park is not part of this at all. It's a whole other topic.
Yes,
but I think there's you look what DOT has done. Their last presentation of how they're getting all their high voltage cables under the river and all their signaling cables under the river. It's 2 5-foot, 60-inch diameter concrete tunnels that are that's what's called micro tunneling. We've talked about that before. under the river. And they're probably 50 feet below there. I'm not sure exactly. I don't remember from seeing those drawings how deep they are, but they're concrete conduits, if you will. And from anyone working with any of this kind of stuff, you have to change your data cables, particularly with railroad automation now. The ability to get inside of it with a little go-kart and run around and pull all the wires out and change them, put new high voltage cables in there as the technology changes, is just a no-brainer. And I think that it's really appropriate to ask for a whole other look at how this is being done, because this horizontal drilling is it's not precise. You don't have a fixed conduit or a tube that you can really put new cables through, or even inspect your cables. So all that stuff is, in my view, in harm's way. And I know a lot of consultants will tell you that, you know, you really shouldn't put them underground because you can't get them to see what's happening. The preferred thing to do is have them exposed where you can look up at them with binoculars and see if they've been damaged, rather than wondering what's happened underground, because you don't know until you dig it up that something's happened. So I think that this ought to be a push for a meeting, first and foremost. And I wouldn't, and I just certainly wouldn't rely on I'm sorry to say, a letter from the Harbor Commission to make a hoot of difference to these guys.
No, you're right.
I
We
think
have
they-
no more standing
you
than
get the city-
That's right.
You need to get the citizenry going and get everybody outspoken, and we could write our own letters, but I think and we could create a form letter or a outline of a letter to give to people who in the community who want to write. But I think we need to make sure we have a hearing about this.
I believe Lori has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, there she is.
She's been waiting
Thanks, Jeff.
patiently.
That's
Oh,
okay.
sorry, Laurie.
Dr. Pinto, I totally agree that the city has dropped the ball on this. Alan, I know, and since I joined, you've been talking about microtunneling. But I'm wondering, to rally the public, first of all, did you say that Matt had been working with a petition?
Yeah,
no?
basically, I reached out to Alan after I got this, saying, you know, what's the next step here? And there really wasn't anybody. So I just basically organized a petition. I actually unfortunately, I was traveling for work for the last 2 weeks. But based on, you know, back and forth with the folks who were part of that team that will allow us to get a public hearing, they said, listen, you got to get 25 people, you got to have someone in charge. You got to send those via email to XYZ, and then you have to follow that up within 10 business days in writing. So just I literally got back into town just a day or so ago. I'm going to be over at Ishota tomorrow afternoon. Was going to get some signatures there. If anyone else would like to stop in and sign it, I really don't think I'll have a problem getting 25 or so signatures. In a short amount of time. But my concern mimics exactly what you were saying, John, is that where this leads, it's a Pandora's box of. The only thing that I look at it as is that there's a negative connotation of what's going to be able to be done in that area by everyone other than Eversource. And, for my kids' time frame, 40, 50 years from now, and all of a sudden they want to put a high-speed ferry into Manhattan, into that area. Well, guess what? You can't. It just basically boxes out any potential other areas, especially when we're dealing with this marine industrial zone that we're trying to reinvigorate, and use of the harbor by the public. These are two things that just come directly in contact with what I think the future of that area could have if something like this is done.
Eversource fed the city and started to feed us a line of goods right from the very start when we met with Ms. Wellman, Marcia Wellman, who represented Eversource, saying that the lines could not be bent, could not be go off on an angle or anything, and that this is the only location that we had. And we found out that was not true.
Jonathan,
Yeah.
comment.
Okay, I just wanted to finish what I was going to ask. Two thoughts. One, Matt, can you send us a copy of that petition so that we can go around in our own neighborhoods?
Sure.
If you have a version of it. My second thought is, Alan, I wonder if you might be willing to write a letter to the Norwalk Hour
Sure.
that might motivate the public.
And I was actually just on what's it called? Change.org right now, which is that website that they use to organize petitions. So Matt, if you could send me anything you've written up, I can plug it in and then we can just have a link to drive people to.
Yeah, it's as simple as it gets. I mean, they literally just needed a name as a a head liner on it, and basically to copy and paste a bunch of the details of the actual paperwork into the top of it, and then just boom, they just need 25 signatures.
Can it
was
be
gonna
done
ask people in my neighborhood,
electronically?
and, I'm sorry.
Can it
They
be
have
done
to be done mail?
sign it electronically?
I don't. That's the only thing that they didn't really.
I don't think so. When
I don't think so either.
we did our petition, when the commission did our petition, when we talked to the hearing officer when we petitioned for that, we had to get in actual signatures that they're submitted. Yeah.
That's why I just
unfortunate.
planned on getting a bunch of them and
Yeah.
making a PDF. of it,
25 is
shooting.
25 is not that difficult, first of
No.
all, is
Right.
it? I mean,
Right.
so that's
What time are we gonna be
doable.
at, show
And
it?
Matt, I believe you had had that all done though. You had a form with the name of the project on top of it.
Yeah, no, I factored that up, so I can forward that off to you guys. I'm just gonna get a bunch of signatures, and then we can send it off as a group or whatever is deemed best.
And I think the other piece that you need to have to go with that, if you're going to go door to door or restaurant to restaurant or business to business, is just a fact sheet to go with that. That has the the bullet points about what you're signing, why you're doing it.
Do we have
Just
something
the-
like that so far?
Do we what?
Do we have that
sorry?
or something close
Jeff,
to it?
No, we don't have a page that summarizes what we're asking for. We have what you prepared, which was
We prepared two letters, Matt. We have two letters.
document that you sign.
One to deep and one to the siting council. The one to the siting council had a little bit more, what I like to think, a little bit more information, but by the time, because we were a little miffed by the fact that the hearing officer didn't really care about our response at all. They negated the Harbor Commission's input into anything that was said, which I was certainly very annoyed about. And that's based on that court hearing that we had, going back to the Greenwich court hearing that disavowed the commission's responsibility in any state application.
Can you forward that stuff over to me, John?
Yes.
Yeah, I think we'd all. Could you just send it to all of us? I mean,
Yeah, I'll put. Yeah.
But
Hey, Jeff.
Stedman is dying to talk.
His comment, since it's been 9 years since we've been looking at this. And you might remember there was a lawsuit filed in federal court over the environmental impact assessment for the walk bridge, alleging that it improperly segmented the project by not including the impacts of the Eversource project, which I thought was a very logical argument. And the DOT said, "Oh, we'll deal with that later," but it's clearly a essential element of the project. That lawsuit was dismissed, not on the merits, but because of questions about the standing of the plaintiffs. So it goes all the way back to that point. And now what we're dealing with, even though this is a gigantic project, the process is the same as the little dock projects. We looked at this in the pre-application phase and we made certain comments. And now it's out to public notice, and the public notice period is up on April 15th.
April 15th.
So my suggestion is, and it's interesting, in that public notice, there's the draft DEEP permit. And you'll notice that one of the conditions of that permit is that DEEP is requiring Eversource to post a performance bond of $774,000 to cover any inadvertent spills of the drilling fluid. So that's to protect DEEP's interest. The Corps of Engineers, as we've been told, will have a condition in its permit that says if the electric lines in any way interfere with the maintenance of the channel, then Eversource moves the lines.
At their expense.
So that's protecting the Corps of Engineers and the federal interest. And you should look up Eversource and electric cables in Boston Harbor, and you see how that can lead into an issue. So why in the world wouldn't we also require a condition in that permit or an agreement with Eversource that if the city is limited in its ability to maintain or repair or replace the dock, or if there's added expense, Eversource pays. And that's what we've argued for all along. So my thought is that, and John and I are working on it, is that we should send a statement now, in addition to petitioning for the hearing, because that statement will be on the record of whether they listen to it or not, which they probably won't, but it'll be part of the public record, and it can influence the public's understanding of this. But our thought was that the commission would approve a motion tonight to, one, express support for the public hearing, and for two, to reaffirm the commission's previous statement that there needs to be a binding agreement to hold, to cover the city's expenses if they're limited in the future. And that absent that agreement, then this proposal is inconsistent with the harbor management plan. And that we would also provide in this letter now, the background statement that we submitted to the Siting Council. And also request, as we did with the pre-submission work, that the Shellfish Commission join us in submitting this in a joint letter. So get that on the public record in addition to petitioning for the public hearing. The other thing is, we went through the process with the Siting Council, and I know that there are alternatives to what's been proposed now, but I think that the chance, in my opinion, of them rethinking and replanning this project is just slim and none. That they're going to do it underneath the pilings. And that what we have to hope for and push for is just the logical, if the city is limited, it costs more, that Eversource pays. And when we talked about this with the DEEP early on, before they submitted the application, we had a positive response because DEEP was saying this is a public access facility. It's consistent with the Coastal Management Act. We support this. Why wouldn't there be a condition that they have that the city wouldn't be limited? Right. I also might add that, the feeling personally that I had about the Siting Council and the conflicts of interest with DEEP being a voting member of the Siting Council, I might say is shared by pretty much every elected official in the town of Fairfield now over a different utility company in a different project. And as a result, there are 4 bills now pending in the legislature that would change the way the Siting Council does business, but that's a moot point too. So our thought was that that motion, those 4 or 5 points in the motion should be approved tonight, and then we move forward and do the best we can in the public hearing, only logically arguing for what's fair for the city, especially since this is a project that's not been seen anywhere. And then the last thing that I'll say, and I'll stop, I promise, is that we were very fortunate throughout this process to have perhaps one of the foremost electric utility construction experts in the country help us, Mr. Mailman. And he did that without expecting any compensation. He was just sharing his knowledge and for reasons that I won't go into now. And I think everybody on the commission should be respectful and appreciative of the input that he provided to us. Beginning right at the beginning of this project, when Eversource said they couldn't angle the line to the south of the visitor's dock and then bend it north. And then, of course, we learned that that's not true. Then their next argument was they couldn't angle the line to the south because they'd be cutting off part of that property at I forget maybe it's 90 Water Street, I can't remember. And that would diminish future redevelopment opportunities. And of course, now they're going right down the middle of that property. And they told us that it can be redeveloped for a park or a parking lot. So I think all we can argue for now logically and hope to get is Eversource's commitment to be responsible if the city and the public is diminished in what it can do. Thank you for letting me elaborate on here.
I don't disagree with you a whole lot, Jeff, except that my experience with these things in the public sector and with big buildings and big cities is that all those agreements are forgotten and lost, and the people who fought for them have retired or died. And when it comes time to build the building, nobody even remembers that existed. That's the problem with that. So I'm more.
And you're
in my
right.
experience, if you fight, you can get what you want. The point there's just so many points here that the technology that was used when this was thought about is been around for a long time, but this project has dragged on forever. A lot of these documents are 2016 and we're almost to 2026, and the ways of doing things and the techniques available are much newer. And I think that we ought to make that a point, that this is was conceived a long time ago now, and somebody hung their hat on something, but there are better ways now than when this project began and everybody got committed to a way to do it. You know, I think that there's putting that underneath, just underneath Elizabeth Street as well is a huge impediment to the city. You know, whenever you have to change something, it's in the way. South Norwalk is an area that the city wants to develop, and you're putting a concrete bunker the length of Elizabeth Street. How do you run a pipe under that? I mean, how do you move the street a little bit? I mean, you're so locked in that the city is just.
Eversource sold the
Uh,
city a bill of goods back about 10 years ago, Alan, and we're paying for it since that time.
And
Yeah, but I don't think I think that it's an old it's based on old ideas now that have changed, and it's been 10 years since this was conceived. Steve.
Steve?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I can't go back 9 years, but I can go back to the 2018 meeting, and I was there. I presented, and John did as well. There was a hard sell that night, and basically the hard sell was that we need this approved first before anything else could be done. And now we've seen, based on the work that's already been done, that that was patently false. So the city was certainly not, there was no full disclosure. And secondly, in terms of maybe taking the left-hand turn off Elizabeth Street, going up Water Street and crossing between the Straffolino. I mean, we've proposed that before. I still think that's the smartest way, even at this late hour. I think the chances, as Jess says, are probably pretty low. But remember, the reasons that they said were the complexity of crossing the intersection of Washington Street and Water Street and the cost. And I don't think we should care very much about the latter, frankly. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
And just over the concern of, setting back the Walk Bridge project, I think if Eversource project was redesigned, it could set back the Walk Bridge project by a couple of years, because the siting council approval is, they'd have to redesign, do all the analyses, prepare another plan, and go before the siting council. I see this taking a couple of years. It doesn't mean that we can't raise that, but I don't think that should detract or diminish our efforts that if they do go under the Veterans Park, they have to pay for any added costs. Those are just my thoughts on the whole matter.
I mean, I agree with you. I just think that we ought to take a little bit harder line and try to say no, because it's going to really impede development in the city forever. I mean, it's a forever choice to do that. It's going to digging it up and putting it somewhere else is not something that anybody's going to entertain. And you got to remember, Eversource is going to be sold to somebody else too, and is this an agreement we have with Eversource binding on Eversource's successors or not? I mean, just
So,
I don't disagree that we should try to say that they're going to be responsible for everything, but there's just so many ways they can get out of doing that.
I'm laughing, Alan, because what you're mentioning about the successors, that's the issue, was the issue up in Boston Harbor. Eversource
Really?
acquired a company, and when that company got the permission to drill under the harbor, it was supposed to be moved by its successor or that company, and then Eversource balked at it, and it cost the federal government much money to finally deal with it. But that's just a side joke here. But our thought was that the push forward with the public hearing to be able to bring up all these points, but at the same time provide this motion that we just talked about. Support the public hearing, reaffirm that if it goes underneath the visitors' docks, Eversource will be responsible for any added costs. And if it does go underneath the visitors' dock and Eversource isn't, it's inconsistent with the harbor management plan, submit the comments we made to the DEP and the pre-submission, and then ask to do this jointly with the Shellfish Commission, which will meet. The Shellfish Commission will meet before your April meeting, will be before the April 15th deadline of submitting all this.
I think the deadline's a little earlier. It's 40 days after of the Mark, this about going under the river bit, that piece of it was dated March 6th, and there's 40 days. So I get, is that 40 business days?
It's
the
it's right on the DEP notice. It says public comments by April 15th. So I don't know, maybe they didn't count right, but
okay.
No, that's what Google told me.
What's that?
So that's what Google told me.
Tell you what, 15th?
15th.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But I do think we need to go out and do the petition thing. I mean, I think that's
I agree. I agree with you, Alan. Yeah. But,
absolutely.
I certainly we could put together those 5 points and then get those out.
With a joint letter.
With a
from
joint
the-
Matt is good. And Matt has the signature document ready to go. In my view.
Also, I made a change.org petition for this and I just sent it to all of your inboxes. So there's a link.
Do
Ready
you
to
want
roll.
our previous Matt? I can send a previous letter that we sent to the DEP and we sent to the siting council.
Yeah,
just
if
printed
you
some
want to
stuff
shoot me
off.
those two, I'll.
Yeah.
Can you send it to everybody?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's common. It came from the committee. Yes.
The commission could agree to those points then tonight?
Will the commission agree to those points again of restating those?
Please.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think that we have to do more than one letter because I
Yeah.
think one letter gets
I
lost.
couldn't agree with it more. I like a multi-pronged attack because coming from one focal group doesn't really say anything, but coming from several points of interest, I think has a lot of weight.
Chris,
Whether-
can I
I
ask
think it-
you, Chris White, so for clarification on change.org, can I open that email that you just sent and forward it to all my friends and have them sign it, and it's all done online?
Yeah, you just take that link that's
Awesome.
in there and then you can just text it to somebody. We did one of these when they were talking about dead ending my street and one of the guys started a change.org. It literally took me 5 minutes while we were doing this. And
It looks fabulous, and we can just spread it to our email list, our local.
yeah, you shoot it out, you can
Without
put it on
having to get
Facebook, you can put it
physical.
to anyone you want. When they sent it to me, that I got a text and I went on, I just did it from my phone. It was just like,
Thank you.
here to sign. They don't even need, it's easy.
Thank
peasy.
you.
So how does that get to DEP?
Signed, I don't know about that. That's a good question.
That's my question, because when I reached out to them, it was like, horse and buggy syndrome where they needed us to, walk out with candles and, put it in ink and bring it over to them. So that's why I was kind of puzzled. Like there wasn't an e-version that we could just, knock off and, have people on 2 of my streets.
I think
you
You can download it because I think that there are problems with that. So they have a whole thing here, like present your petition in person and you can rip it off and make it into a printable PDF. Unless they want blood.
There are instructions included in this, about that, what counts as
I'm reading them right now, Alan, and that's what we were talking about 2 weeks ago before I left. And it just says petitionings for all hearings should be submitted within 40 days from the date of this publication. Again, to your point earlier, it's March 6th is the date of the publication. Publication of this public notice and should include the application number is noted and also identify the contact person to receive notification. Petitions should also identify a person who's authorized to engage in discussions regarding the application, and if resolved, withdraw the petition. The Office of Adjudication will currently accept electronically filled petitions in addition to petitions submitted by mail. Petitions with required signatures must be filed by email, and or mailed to DEP offices, 70 Elm Street, Hartford, within 30 days of their filing. Original petitions that were filed electronically must also be mailed to the office at the above noted address.
Matt, we did this for the Walk Bridge hearing, so we just have to go back and we did it before. I just have to go back and refresh how we did it, and we'll be able to do it this time too.
But my point is, if it can be electronic, that's going to be a lot faster, a lot more signatures, and a lot more efficient than horse and buggy. So maybe can we task Chris White for figuring out, work with Matt or something and figure out yes or no, and what?
I mean, it
just
says it
what
right
the
here. The
marching
office
orders?
of will currently accept electronically filed petitions.
Oh, okay.
Done.
Yeah, and it says here
Exactly.
that it is, what's this other said? The petition must be submitted with a statement bearing the wet ink signature of petitioners. Is only available in that format. Now, I don't
Yeah.
know if, I don't think they require it in,
So if you know any friends that don't own a computer, we can print one out for them, but other than
Yeah.
that, pretty good to go. And then it just says petition should identify a person who is authorized to engage in discussions regarding the application. Alan, do you want me to put you down for that? I can edit this thing too, so. Or you want, you heavy,
Sure,
heavy,
why not?
heavy weighs the crown scenario?
Yeah, that's right. I was just looking, I say, Chris McDonald's not not here, so he would be another candidate to do that. But he's not at the meeting.
Hey,
right
that
now.
means if he's not here, he can't protest. All right.
Exactly.
Is that the
That'll teach
statement?
him.
Is that the statement? If you're not
That'll
at the
teach 'em.
table, you're on the menu. Is that how it goes?
That's correct. That'll teach you.
Well, we can put John Pinto down, huh?
Oh,
Yeah, whoever wants.
I've been on that chopping block 3 times already.
No, I just
Well,
want to make sure.
I don't mind.
As
I'll
long
be
as we
happy to
have
do
the
that.
name, it looks like we just need a name that
Yeah.
we can identify with this, so I can put.
yeah, it's just a name, address, and email address. That's all they're
If I
asking.
if I go missing, you'll know what happened.
Yeah, no, so social number, routing number, and then we're good to go. It's your pin number.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Perfect.
So where are we? I think
Well, we're done as far as the Eversource thing, I guess.
Is the commission
oh,
going
you guys are gonna put a letter together that we're gonna sign?
Yeah, did you want, well, I'll give it sort of a 5-point, letter, sort of stating what we've done in the past and,
but those 5 points, John, that you support the hearing,
Yeah.
reaffirm the pre-submission recommendation that there has to be a binding agreement that Eversource pays if the city is put out, and reaffirm that absent that the proposal is inconsistent with the harbor management plan.
and we did this in conjunction with the
And
Shellfish
do it in
Commission.
conjunction with the Shellfish and resubmit for the public record the comments on the history of this that we've already submitted. And then that would, the way we did that on the pre-submission, Alan, is you and Steve both signed that letter. So as soon as the Shellfish Commission can vote to do that as well, then we, but that doesn't delay the submittal of the hearing petition at
Right.
all.
No, I mean, we can go right ahead and start doing that as fast as we can.
We'll do that. We can do that tonight, as a matter of fact. We'll do that, if the commission is all in agreement with that.
If the commission has agreed to putting those points in the letter in response to this DEP public notice, then we can craft the letter and it'd be ready for Steve to sign after the Shellfish Commission meets. Steve and you, Alan.
The motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
Can
All in
I ask a
favor?
question about it?
Nope.
Sorry,
Question?
I'm just trying to get efficient here. So Chris White just sent an email to all of us that describes that has the petition. So there's language already in there. If it's not accurate, my recommendation is Dr. Pinto, you and Jeff can work with Chris. But I think instead of having it a lengthy letter, I think it just needs to be quick bullet points. This is why the hearing's important. I'm just thinking about when I mail it out to my friends, they're not going to want to read a 2-page letter.
This is just a petition for the hearing, so we just got to say.
Yeah.
keep the wire.
Exactly.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Why
You
we
don't have
think
to
the
say
hearing's
why.
important.
They want to put live
All we
wires
want
in
is a
North
hearing.
Harbor.
Short, sweet. and to the
Exactly.
point. We don't
Whatever
need
it is.
Exactly. So I would just encourage us all to stay on task with that as the goal. That's all.
Yeah. I mean, any of that other stuff you can prep for when we do get a public hearing, certainly, like, that's fine.
There's a lot of work to be done before then to get what's gonna be said. And
Well,
be sure you get people there. It'd be great to have them, rent Yankee Stadium for us, but.
I would just disagree to an extent that the hearing, you're right, the hearing is bullet points and that's separate and it stands on its own. But there needs to be some sort of a formal statement submitted to DEEP as part of the response to this public notice. So
Understood.
you can't say we did,
Yes.
no, I'm not talking about a detailed letter that goes to the people who might sign the hearing petition. That's, as you say, Lori, just simple. But I think that there has to be a formal letter submitted to DEEP in response to this public notice. So that.
You're saying there's really two things here. One is the letter and the
Yes.
other is a petition. I agree.
Right,
That's what
right.
needs to happen.
We're talking about just making sure that the letter goes to DEP, just sort of putting our foot in that door.
And responding.
So
to-
we have a motion on the floor.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, you want to restate that, Lori?
I think Jeff Mangles made the motion.
Oh, Jeff, I'm sorry.
Yes, I made the motion. Let's
You
move
say it
forward.
over?
I make a motion. Let's
How
move
about
it forward.
Support us
No,
sending.
the motion is to,
Sending a letter, as discussed for sending a letter.
Correct. As discussed, send a letter, do everything that was
Second?
discussed that
Lori
Jeff
second, or
and John put in.
Second, I'll second.
Lori seconds? Any discussion? Objection? John?
I've got
All in
a,
favor? Call the question? Question? Yes? Opposed?
I have to abstain, Alan. I've got a professional
I know.
conflict of interest, so, yeah.
No, how many do we have in favor? 5, because that's a quorum, so. Yep. Okay, so John and Jeff, are you gonna author that and
Yeah, and we're gonna have you and we're gonna have Steve signing that. And that's gonna go to the DEP.
and so we still have this petition thing to
Yes.
solve. How to somebody want to be the major domo for that of just getting? Are we
I
thinking we could do?
nominate Chris White.
What's up? What's that for?
And I nominate Chris White because he's already created the petition.
Yeah. And we have to be sure that's satisfactory because it has to be people from Norwalk, you know, I think it has to be,
Yes.
it just be people on the street, you know, have to.
I think
And-
the petition you put your address in.
Right.
Yeah.
And then do we, as Norwalk residents, me as Lori Jones, submit that petition with all my friends' signatures? Or is it one petition, Chris, the link you sent links to, and then no matter who gets it, you know, they all get submitted under Alan Kibbe or Harbor Commission or?
Everything goes to this main, so do you mean like when we submit it, like
Yeah.
to the town?
Yeah.
I mean.
No,
it
to the
doesn't-
state.
To the state, yeah, I mean, it's just a name. I put
It's just
myself,
a long list of signatures. Got it. Great. I think
And
that's great.
addresses and all.
all
Yeah.
the
Right.
pertinent information. I put myself down as like the point person on it on the website, so it's just.
Great.
And yeah, it's fairly straightforward. I mean, I can take it.
So
to
we're
the-
not gonna, do we not have to collect ink signatures then?
According to
Oh.
that thing that we were just looking at, the thing that you forwarded from Deep.
Yep.
I mean, it has it right there that they're accepting electronic signatures, and when we did this in my neighborhood, we did it with whatever Department of some city branch, and we did it on change.org and it was fine. I'm fairly
Because
positive.
there's a lot of businesses I'd like to, you know, like Fisherman's World, places like that, the businesses are important too, people that are, you know, making their living from the neighborhood.
What I could do is I could just print out that QR code that I just sent through. And I can just
Uh-huh.
take it to Fisherman's World on my way to the office tomorrow, and I can just give it to the guys. I know Mola, and I can just say, hey, can I, you know, keep
And
wire.
actually stick it on every light pole on the way to work. And
We're gonna have a ticker tape parade, and we're just gonna throw them off the top of the buildings on Washington Street.
okay.
So
We need to keep
Matt,
moving.
does this mean that you're not gonna be at iShota tomorrow collecting names?
I'm still gonna be there, but
Oh.
I think we already have 25 on the list. I
All right, no, because I was gonna stop by, maybe have a short one at the bar.
well, I'll be there.
Oh,
in
I
the,
see.
later afternoon.
No,
Let me know when you're going by there, Matt, because that is right.
Yeah,
next-
you buying?
Just in case.
Well, if we get this thing passed and approved, yeah, I'll buy.
It was funny because
I'll
I
buy
figured
too.
I'd get 25 names over there in about 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna just do that is because we're just gonna organize it. I don't think we can vote on that. It's not, we're not really representing the commission. We're just going to go out and get signatures for this.
Yeah.
that right?
Yes.
All right. What's next? We done, John?
We're finished with application review. Yes.
I have no correspondence. I hope nobody else does. Is there any correspondence?
I actually got a
No.
voicemail today from a gentleman who was inquiring about the 7 to 55 Smith Street application that you guys looked at last month, and that's going in front of planning and zoning next week. So I returned his call, caught his voicemail, and I let him know that it was going to planning and zoning. You guys had already looked at it, but if they change anything drastically and you guys look at it again, he could speak about it. Or I also let him know there was a meeting tonight and he could speak during public comment, but I did not see, or obviously we didn't hear from him, but I did get that.
Amelia, is that from the North Boat Club?
The person who was calling or what
Yeah.
they were calling about.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, so it
No,
was, I
reason-
don't know what his association was, but he was calling about 7 to 55 Smith Street. It's that ONG property.
Right, the ONG property, which we have concern about because if they plan to bring in barges in that area, you know, the ONG and Divines are gonna have to certainly get together because it's gonna be a lot narrow in there if two barges are side by side.
Yeah, and I think those were some of his concerns. So I let him know about the planning and
Yes.
zoning public hearing and
Certainly
that if
concerned
there
that
were
we
any
have-
changes, it would come back
Certainly
to you
concern
guys.
that we have to talk about because we have the Army Corps' plans of the diagram in that area, and it shows the harbor, you know, the channel lines, and where the section where Divine Brothers, we sort of took off of the Federal Navigation Project so that they can leave more of their barges there, and a section where ONG can put their barges in. But now, and I think what Divine Brothers has done is to take advantage of the fact that ONG has not been there for about maybe 5 or 6 years and has taken a little carte blanche and having their barges out in the channel a little bit more. But now if ONG starts bringing their barges, that's going to be a little bit of a problem because there's less than probably about 40 feet if you have barges on either side of that harbor.
Got it. Okay. I'll advise him to, yeah. I mean, I'll tell him too that he can email something. He can submit public comment that way as well to you
Yeah,
guys.
yeah. I mean, that's certainly a concern. And I think but they did mention in ONG's application, they did mention that they're going to sort of alternate. They both use the same barge company. And they were going to alternate trips, you know, or, barges up the harbor and alternate that so that they can, but I don't know how that's going to work out, but so that when ONG has a barge there, Divine Brothers does not. So I don't know how they're going to work that, but they did mention that to try to do coordination. But I think at this time now, I think Divine took a little bit of advantage of the fact that ONG was not in operation for about 5 or 6 years. And so they took a little carte blanche and sort of moving their barges out a little bit more.
Got it. Well, thank you, Dr. Pino. And that was the only correspondence I'd received.
Pretty sure that's what it's about.
So I will proceed with my lengthy chairman's report. I wanted to say congratulations to Chris White for this. I think this is a terrific thing. You've all seen this, right? I've sent it around. So we're going to try to get that out this next few days, actually. And I'm going to have to work with Amelia and Jessica. And certainly a lot of it can go electronically as to our mooring holders, for example, things like that. Wow,
Yeah,
excuse
it's
me.
really good, Chris. Did a good
It's
job on
excellent,
that.
Chris. It's just you have all and it's just, you know, it's a refreshing kind of look. The content is great. It's going to get some interest in the harbor. So just getting it printed, and I'll work with the city on doing that and ask some of you maybe to help a little bit. We'll get some printed so that we can put them on the counter in West Marine and places like that as well. So that's good.
I'll start working on the
I've
summer.
been spending some time working on committee assignments for folks. Chris McDonald is going to step down from the Plans and Recommendations Committee. And he's taking a break. He's got two busy committees, and he wants to work on the Harbor Plan group. So Lori Jones is going to take over the Plans and Recommendation Committee. So congratulations, Lori.
With Jeff
Welcome to-
Mangles, with Jeff Mangles.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute. Oh, okay. I'll help you out.
we still need a volunteer, so I'm glad Larry's taking that over, and it's all going to be good. I need a volunteer still to represent the Harbor Management Commission on the Mayor's Water Quality Committee, which I don't think is, since Joe stepped away from that, I don't think that that's been meeting. But if anybody, before I assign somebody, if anyone has a desire to get involved with that, please let me know, because it's an important place. The other thing is we began forming a harbor management plan review committee, and the document was last reviewed 15 years ago, and so it really needs a new look. I see this is happening during the summer more than right now, because I think we have a lot on our plate right now. But as we get going,
Chris was going to take
so
that. Chris, I'm sorry, Alan, wasn't Chris going to spearhead that along with Jeff, and to sort of get the ball rolling?
Well, yeah, Chris is going to be in that. Laurie is going to be doing that. I'm talking to people one at a time to get that started, but that's coming together. Anybody who wants to be on that, just send me a note, because we'll do that. But Laurie and Chris, I so far are committed to doing that. Again, that's not something we were to tackle right now with all these petitions and all this stuff going on with the bridge. So Chris and Laurie are going to be helping in that, and we just need some other voices. And I was thinking I'd talk to the Marine Police and see if they want to have a representative on that as well, because that would be.
We talked about Marine Police. We also talked to our harbor master, and in coordination with what Jeff already has put together. Basically, he's got the whole thing basically signed, sealed, and delivered.
We'll get that going. Again, it's not for me. It's not a fire drill right at this moment with all the other stuff going on. We've talked about the Walk Bridge cable routing and the Eversource public hearing. The only other piece of information that it's important is we went through the process of getting our grant reauthorized. We asked for we've been going from $25,000 to $20,000. The Board of Estimate and Taxation cut us by $5,000 this year. So it's a $5K reduction. We're getting $15,000 from the city, and we've been taking that as just kind of extra, part of our operating fund that comes from the city, and that's really not what it's supposed to be. So we need to kind of think through that a little bit, and being better when we apply about saying exactly what it's for. They'd be happier if it was for a project rather than just keep the commission going. So there's that. I think we have enough money that we're carrying over, because we carry that over year to year. We'll be fine for this year. So I'm not alarmed about that, but it's, and I think our mooring revenue is going to increase this year as well. So I think I don't see it as a problem. I think that is all I had to say. Any questions for me? The cup. You're still there. Okay. Bruce Lavallo is not with us, so moving right along, we get to Consultant Stedman.
Alan, we have our deputies here. Would the deputies need to add anything? We have our deputy harbor masters.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry, guys.
We have Owen
and Mike.
Yeah,
Yes.
if they have anything to add as part of the,
Justin.
yeah.
I don't have anything to add. I think Bruce wanted to relay that he has 31 people outstanding for their renewals and 101 had paid. That was the only thing he had to add to this evening's meeting. So we received payment for the 2024 season from 101 people, and we have 31 outstanding.
Thanks, Owen.
Owen, was there a meeting with the rowing clubs?
There was a meeting with the rowing clubs.
Yeah, so some safety was discussed and how to proceed during the during the construction period and in that area, under the walk bridge and all of that area. And it just so happened that just after that, in Westport, there was an issue, and with the rowers.
Yes.
So it just stressed the fact that we have to be careful, not only, you know, out there, but we have those meetings with the rowing clubs because we do want everyone to be safe. We want people to be able to go row again.
Those
type of
rowing
thing.
clubs from Westport or from Norwalk?
No, they were from Norwalk upriver.
From Norwalk, and
The-
Westport and yeah, I heard about that. Yeah.
The other one was the Saugatuck Rowing Club, I think.
The rowing clubs that we had the meetings with were all from Norwalk, and the rowing club that had the accident was from the Westport area.
You went out there, Owen?
Yes, myself and Justin Basigli went out that day.
Well, thanks both of you guys helping out over there. I mean, it's yeah, we're talking about kids' lives, so.
Absolutely.
So in other words, we did not talk to that group.
That's not in, no, that group is not a part of.
Yeah, we're not, part of our purview, but
yeah, it doesn't impact us.
Some of the things prior to that event that we did was we requested all of the I call them kids, but all of the rowers to have high visibility apparel on. We also kind of coined the term of the red zone around the bridges as a work zone, as it is, right? So we requested that they would be in signal file when they come and go, just because of the amount of traffic between the bridges. And you know, we don't want 3 and 4 and 5 abreast just because of the amount of equipment and the visibility that that equipment does not have, you know, over the bow.
we do. Well, that's interesting. You know, Owen, Westport has a harbor master, don't they?
Yes, they do.
They do.
And maybe we should put a friendly brief mention into them that maybe they should contact their people and educate them as we have here.
Absolutely. We there is actually a harbor master meeting planned in the next few weeks. So we'll pass that along for sure.
Thank you. Anything else? Jeff?
My report, if you bear with me here. I mentioned the future of the Connecticut Port Authority is a little bit uncertain. The bill to make it a subsidiary of the Airport Authority is a governor's bill, so it's expected to pass. What that means for the future, it would eliminate the independent board of the Port Authority, and it would be the functions. Apparently, the functions are intended to still continue, but it would be subject to the board of the Airport Authority, which apparently has hundreds of employees, and the Port Authority has 3. So it'll be interesting, but it also, I think, and this is an opinion, points out the purpose of the Port Authority in the first place. And someone might say it really wasn't to help all the harbors, it was to redevelop the state pier for the offshore wind industry. Now that the state pier is almost completed and the pieces are coming in and being assembled, someone might say it's not needed anymore. But anyway, so we have to keep our eye on that, and hopefully the programs will continue. And as I said, we have a good relationship with the acting executive director, who, well, whether he continues or not, we don't know, but he said this won't affect the current round of SHIP grants. The other topic, Bruce had mentioned the concern expressed by the Norwalk Boat Club about the constriction of the channel. And going back to look at that, we had a big part in that. Because when the first phase of the dredging project was to begin, it was determined or recognized that the barges tied up to O&G and Divine were in the federal channel. So the Corps wouldn't proceed with the dredging project unless we agreed to pursue reconfiguration of the channel in the Upper Harbor. So that the channel dredging went forward in 2005, but with the understanding that there would be an act of Congress to amend the boundaries of the channel, which took place in 2007. It was the Federal Water Resources Development Act. So it narrowed the channel just opposite Divine and O&G downstream from the Norwalk Boat Club, so that barges tied up at O&G and Divine would not be in the channel. And as a result, the channel narrows to about 40 feet south of the Norwalk Boat Club. And if you look up the river, if you go down to the rowing club where you can see a good view up there, you can see what a pinch point that is. And so that we can't do anything about it though, really. We can't change the channel back. So that it just points out the need for the coordination with O&G and, as John said, and Divine having to do with their barge deliveries. But that goes back to 2007.
Mhm.
We also were unsuccessful in trying to reach an agreement with DEEP about the Harbor Management Commission's authorities. So there is no, we had no luck in trying to introduce another bill this session that would clarify that the Harbor Commission has authority to review applications for DEEP permits. So in this instance with the Eversource, the hearing officer is going to say the same thing as with the Walk Bridge. They're going to say the Harbor Commission has no authority other than that of the general public, and they're going to be dismissive. But we have to go through that process. DEEP had agreed to discuss this matter with us, and they have not since then have not been responsive. The other thing that's interesting is that I got a call from the harbor master in Darien. Darien does not have a harbor management commission, but they have a number of issues having to do with littoral rights and mooring permits, and it's quite interesting. And he's contacted other harbor masters, and we talked about the possibility of having a meeting of harbor masters in Southwest Connecticut to talk about it wouldn't be a statewide meeting now, but say Greenwich, Stamford, Darien, Norwalk, and Westport, and maybe Fairfield. And Bruce said that he might be able to get the community room in the police station to be available for such a meeting, where we would talk about the issues that are of common interest to the harbor masters in Southwest Connecticut. But these littoral rights issues and the issues of to the extent at which DEEP is able to give support and to the harbor masters, they're common interest in all the towns. Well, there was a couple of other things, and I let Mike Matthews down because I didn't get to you, Mike, after the last meeting to go over the overlaid maps that we put together of both the navigation chart, the aerial photo, the 1891 map of natural shellfish beds, and we got a map of 1855 coast survey. So we put all those maps sort of in the same scale. But I completely forgot to get back to Mike after the last meeting, and I promise I'll do that now. But yeah, there's just a lot of things to deal with, and there's another case having to do with Harbor Management Authority that's been brought in the Stamford Superior Court, and that has to do not with authority to deal with DEP permits, but with the extent to which planning and zoning authorities have to listen to the Harbor Management Commission's recommendations on land use proposals. So that's going to be how that works out is going to be have another interesting effect. And I'll stop talking now. But thank you.
You're muted, Alan.
Thank you, Jeff. Any questions? Any questions for Jeff? Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it.
But I have to also apologize to Mike because I missed that Oyster Festival. I definitely regret that. The one was it the one in no, Brantford, not Stanford. Where was that, Mike?
It was in Stratford. It was at Two Roads. It was great. It was great, John. And
are you going to give a presentation on that in your discussion? Are you calling upon? Because I'd love to hear about that.
Happy to give a quick update, but just to set the record straight, Jeff, you never let me down. If anything, it goes the other way, and you've been a big help. So we'll definitely have an update on the oyster stuff here in a minute.
Terrific.
But I also just one more thing, when thinking about updating the harbor management plan, it's my opinion that the most significant thing to deal with is this matter of authority, and to what extent that DEEP has to listen to what the commission says. Absent that, none of the other stuff really makes, in my opinion, a whole lot of difference.
Our authority as far as the review of applications is beginning to erode, Alan. You know, it's beginning to erode, and I don't want to feel that every commissioner is spinning their wheels, you know, and doing their job that was originally imparted by the, you know, the Harbor Management Act, you know, and we're certainly getting shortchanged on that one. Believe me, it's
Yeah, I agree. It's also, you know, it's really an unfunded thing we all do. You know, you think about how much money is being spent on the Harbor Commission. It's not costing the
it's a
state a
passion.
dime.
I think it's our duty. At least each municipality should have control, and that was Doc Gunther's original plan. Is that each municipality has a little bit more say in what goes in and around their harbor, not just simply coming down from Hartford, but at least we have an input. And it
Right.
worked out for quite well until that Greenwich hearing. When that Greenwich hearing came about, where that I have to say, that ill-advised judge, let me put it that way, made that decision that commission does not have the authority to review any application to the state. You know, which really shot us in the foot. And now it's beginning to snowball a little bit more.
Thanks, John. Mr. Bartish, your turn. Shellfish Commission.
Hey, thanks, Chairman Kibbe. Just really quickly, I know the hour's getting late. Commission wants to thank Chairman Dr. Pino again for the COP and for 40 referrals. So just really quickly, the 10 Nearwater COP, we had no objection. By the way, we did submit these to the committee on Saturday, March 9th at 10:21 a.m. The 8 Golden COP, no objection. The 8 Golden 440, no objection. The 49 Neptune that was discussed tonight, we did recommend a site inspection and noted that low tides would have been good late, I guess now last week. We also commented on Nathan Hale, and to paraphrase, the Norwalk Shellfish Commission unanimously resolved to ask the Norwalk Harbor Management Commission for the applicant to provide dredging parameters such as the outline of the area proposed, the total volume of material to be removed, test data for material to be removed, disposal site, timing of dredging. Further, the Shellfish Commission asked that solid documentation be provided for the dredging history to qualify this site to be considered for maintenance dredging. That's all I have, and I'll yield back unless there are any questions. And with your permission, Mr. Chairman, I will sign off. I have a work meeting the other side of the planet shortly.
Thank you very much. Moving right along, Jeff Mangles, mooring and harbor safety.
Sure. So already discussed a little bit about the harbor safety with the meeting with the rowers. The online mooring, as Owen had pointed out, that there's approximately 101 paid, 31 outstanding. Notice if not paid by March 31st, notice will be going out to those that have not paid. They will be treated as new applicants at that time. Transient moorings. So we're going to have some new mooring balls. They are out of stock, actually. Some new mooring balls, and I'm working with Amelia to get that information through and purchased by the city. We're going to go with the soft light mooring balls, which have a well at the top so that all the mooring lines can be placed in there, making it easier for the transient mooring people to go ahead and hook up. These are made in Connecticut by Gilman Corp, and they have provided us with a distributor price list, which I have shared with the city. So we're going to do that directly through them. Mooring fields, all 3 managed fields have paid the first installment. So that's fantastic. And with great help from Amelia getting that done. DOCWA, I'm going to reach out to Chris White, I think, to update the landing page on that. New and improved pictures. When we first did this, we were in a bind to get that done as fast as possible. So I just found some images that I could just shove up there, and it does need some help, so we can fix that.
Yeah, I just
quite
shot you
easily.
down that. We'll get that done before the season gets underway so we can,
Yeah.
sell the sizzle there once people start getting interested.
Yep. There you go. Other than that, I don't have anything else. You are muted, Alan. You are muted, Alan.
Don't know how to. No, it's Chris McDonald's the school meeting still hasn't gotten back yet, so to skip Chris's report, plans and recommendations. I have an announcement to make there with our committees. Lori Jones is having her first time to be said, here's plans and recommendations. I don't know if you have anything to say, but we'll call on you.
No, I'm in touch with Chris for the handoff. That's all I have to say.
Terrific. Congratulations and thank you for taking that on because I think it's
Happy to.
I think it's great. Chris White, newsletter.
Yes, first one obviously is with you. Time to start working on the second one. So I think if anyone has anything that they think they'd like to be included or any kind of, any sort of ideas for content, just send it my way and I can just get a running list going. The more stuff I have to work off of, the quicker these will come together. And now that we have kind of a template built, just physically build files on my end, it'll be much easier to just kind of plug and play this stuff. And we can make these longer. We can, I think there might be some more fun things we can get in for the summer. I'm gonna go talk to like Rex and the guys down at Cove and to see if there's anything else we can get from them as well.
Terrific. Yeah, be sure to give Chris all your ideas and things we should be covering. And Mike, are you still working on the website?
I am not. You have new leadership on website newsletter. That's obviously Chris because he's delivered in fantastic fashion. So I think it would be great to transition into. I would love to support Chris in any way with all of this. So I think it'd be a better way to do it if Chris, you just tell me what to do. You're obviously much more. You have a lot more expertise and actually know what you're doing with all this stuff.
Yeah, all good. We can do that. No problem. And I think what some of the stuff that I see sometimes, which I just don't have access to, is like a lot of the daily updates that we're doing in regards to like the barge locations or any kind of navigational stuff other than what I can see out the window from my office here, which granted is quite a bit. If there's any kind of that information that comes over the transom, just feel free to shoot it my way and I can work it into like the Facebook page and make sure that we're trying to do some regular updates there. Yeah. And we'll keep plugging along. Now we just need to start selling ads in these newsletters and start to offset a little bit of the cost.
Well, that's right. Well, it's.
Who wants to list a boat for
should do that.
sale? Brokerage section.
Yeah. Who gets the commissions on those? Oh,
Don't worry about that.
We'll talk later. I think it's a great. I think it's a great idea. And water quality, we don't have a representative on that front yet, and I haven't. I've been looking for minutes and things. I don't think they've had a meeting since Joe left. So, new business. Mike, did you have something you want to bring up, or did we get to it? A new business.
I think we got to it. I'm happy to. I think I got out in front of you, so apologies with that, Chairman Kibbe. Would definitely love to help with some revisions to the harbor management plan. I think maybe that's what you were discussing. Kind of recurring / new developments to, as Dr. Pinto brought up. It was a great event at the CORR, CORR, which is the Collective for Oyster Shell Restoration and Recycling. Very, very well attended. I met a lot of our non-Bloom affiliated oyster folks, right? And I now have a map and a trail set up with all of our different interests. Whether that's environmental, historic, of course, kind of a more natural resource, oyster beds tied to the aquarium, and all kinds of other stuff. The big thing now is actually getting sign off from everybody, which, as Matt knows, can be tough. Everybody's schedule or everybody's very busy these days. I am the number one problem with that. My schedule is zilch these days. So doing my best to get a sign off. We do have a website. We do have roughly the rights to Connecticut's first oyster trail. A final thing with that is we have been speaking with, or sorry, I was on a work trip in Maine last week, which is the most robust oyster trail, and got some ideas on how to do this. And so, Chris, looking to you again after you get your feet set and get that great second edition out. I think I might be able to feed a little bit of content your way on this.
Terrific.
So we're moving.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks.
Things are happening. Oops. Any other new business? Anyone? Wake up, come on. All right, I guess it's time for adjournment.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you all. Me too. So thank you all for coming. I think we've got some exciting stuff to get started on with the, both the letter to the to Deep regarding the Eversource project and also our petitioning thing to really push for a meeting. So thank you very much for coming. Thanks for hanging in there for a long time. Thank you, Amelia, for being up this late, and we'll see you later. Thank you all.
Thanks,
Thank
Alan.
you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.